Okay, everybody, welcome to the Select Board meeting. Today's August 25th, and we'll start with Ed reading our script, please.
Sure. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 and March 23rd order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Southampton Select Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so by go to zoom.us/join, hit join a meeting in the top right of your screen, type in the meeting ID 868-9343-9789, password is 613910, hit join. Please be sure to mute your device when joining in. Note to join in video meeting with cell phone, you will need to download the Zoom app from the App Store. Call-in telephone number is 646-558-8656. Or by watching Public Access TV Charter, Spectrum Channel 191. In-person attendance and public comment at Select Board meetings will be suspended until further notice. If you email a written public comment before the scheduled Select Board meeting, it will be read at the Select Board meeting. If you email a written public comment after viewing something at a live televised Select Board meeting, it will be read at the next Select Board meeting. Please send your public comments via email to selectmen@townofsouthampton.org. Please note that all public comments must be within the requirements of the policy and public comments listed on the open time for public on the Select Board agenda.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Let's begin then with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh. Well, thank you. That was mostly in unison. Before we begin, does anybody have any announcements or anything to share before we begin?
Just briefly, just to remind people that from the Select Board, we're going to do our birthday celebrations tomorrow for Ted Hendrick and Leona Hendrick at 4 o'clock.
Yep, they are turning 97, and they're joining the other.
We have the certificates here.
Okay.
Okay. Well, they live, aren't we doing it right near the church anyway?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're both turning 97, and the other 97-year-old was the recipient of the Boston Post cane. Right. So that's a nice thing to do, and that's definitely on, Chris?
Yes, it is, yeah, and I'm glad we postponed it because I think the weather's a whole lot better than it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was way too hot.
Yeah.
Great. Any other announcements? Okay, then we'll begin with appointments and resignations, and starting with Michael Rosenberg, Master Plan Implementation Committee. So you saw the email from him in the packet. He has a lot of responsibilities right now with 2 little people. And so would someone like to make a motion to accept his resignation? And Chris, as a member of the committee, do you have anything to add? And Francine, are you also on MPIC?
Right. No, just a word that, Mike has been the chair of the committee, actually, since I got on about 1.5 years ago, and he's done a great job getting us to the point where we were at probably back in about February, pre-COVID, and then with the arrival of a new one and various other responsibilities, his time has been limited. So we're going to be missing his input. He provided some great leadership for us to go through all those chapters of the master plan and kind of re-look at what the priorities had been many, many years ago and help synthesize our thoughts. So he will be missed, but we totally understand his conflict of duties.
I hope at some point in time he can join another town committee because he was on finance. He was very valuable there as he was on the master plan. So sorry to lose him.
Yep. Thank you very much. Yep. Thanks, Mike, for your service.
Yes.
So would someone like to make a motion to accept his resignation?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Michael Rosenberg from the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
And I'll second it.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Tishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Next is Charlie Knicky, Temporary Emergency Management Director. So if you remember, Charlie has been doing this position, big help, especially in the middle of a pandemic. And he also offered to, when the town elections end up going up until September 1st, he offered to carry along. There was funding in the CARES Act funding for a stipend for this particular position, and I do believe in the packet there are materials for a posting of the emergency management director position. So is there anything else anybody else would like to say about it? I think that my sense, Ed, tell me if I'm wrong with this, but my sense is that we should be able to pull together a posting and possibly PQB can approve the job description. And we already know what the amount, the stipend was already requested at a certain level. Is it realistic that this could be done by the end of September?
Let's see. PB, it's on their agenda for Thursday night, and then finance will have to meet and approve it, and then it comes back to the select board for final approval, which I don't think is an issue in this case, since the select board generated requests for the posting. End of September might be a little tight to actually get it, didn't get people to put in for it and do interviews, but and maybe a possibility. Excuse me.
Okay, but you didn't put together a draft of the posting of the position, so that can go out this week, right? I mean, can't we post the position?
I put together the thing because it's got to go with the PR to PPPB for approval.
Okay.
Maureen, would you mind unmuting Charlie?
I just have a question. I mean, what is the date?
Francine?
What is the date of the extension?
Well, we don't have one yet. That's what I'm discussing.
Okay.
I was wondering if this could be pulled together by the end of September. So we could have the extension go until the end of September. And try to pull together a permanent position by October 1st. I'm just asking Ed if that's realistic.
It'll be tight. It might work. I would say it would definitely work by mid-October, but beginning of end of September, beginning of October might work.
Okay. What do other people think? Matt, you're on PQB. I know, John, you're on finance. I don't know what you have meetings planned. So we have a posting that's pretty much ready to be to go. There is a job description that I saw somewhere. At least we have a template that goes back to September when Art Lawrence sent a note out to the committee. So I'm just trying to come up with a realistic timetable for actually posting this position and assigning a stipend and all that.
From a FinCom point of view, it won't be an issue. It's more the posting and the PQB timing.
Okay.
I guess my question is, we had talked about this. We have the CARES Act money in there for, I think it's $15,000 for 15 months. And we voted last year for April, May, and June to pay Charlie the stipend for every month. And I believe he submitted payrolls for that. Has that been paid for last fiscal year yet? And has anything been paid going forward?
I just checked. My understanding is that April, May, and June was approved at $1,000 a month, and nothing else was approved after that. So technically speaking, $12,000 of a stipend. So it's not $1,000 per month. It's $1,000 for April, May, and June, and then there's an additional $12,000 for the EMD position.
So have we paid for last year yet? April, May, June, last fiscal year?
No, we have not yet.
Well, I don't think we heard about funding until after June 30th.
Correct.
Just the end of August, that's all.
I will submit those.
So
Okay.
if we extend this position more, are we paying for this position from July 1 until we extend it? Or is Charlie doing it at no cost? I guess Charlie's there, but
Well, I think that's up to us, John. I think that, I think that there's $12,000 for an EMD position. So can we do what we've done with other positions, is assign an emergency position for 2 weeks? And I mean, I don't know what other people think, but I'm just trying to be clear about what we've approved so far and what was covered by the CARES Act.
yeah.
So $3,000 should be paid to Charlie as soon as possible. And then there's $12,000, and we're trying to decide how, he's offering to have an extension of his temporary position. And the question is for how long, and how long will it take to pull this position together? And, is it, once the position's together, there's $12,000 to be spent until it's gone, or I'm not sure. That's up to us to decide.
Well, I guess the other question is if it's up to Charlie, I guess, to let us know if he wants to extend it at no cost or if he's looking for something. It just seems like this bounces back and forth. I think we should make sure we're all on the same track.
I mean, my understanding.
I guess from my perspective, we found out about this when we saw the grant after it had been submitted and approved. It was not a discussion that we had. So now we're starting to have that discussion.
Right.
So I'd be interested in hearing what he had in mind.
I mean, my thought would be that we voted on the April, May, and June, and we all agreed with that, and that's absolutely fine. But if we're going through the process of posting a position, we don't know if Charlie's the only one who might apply for the position or anything else, right? So I don't think we can presume certain things until we get to that point. I mean, I would think we have to do some sort of temporary extension for a month or 6 weeks at the most.
Well, I guess my point is we can say we want to extend them for 2 months at no pay, and he can say, sorry, I'm not interested. So I think we need to both be on the same track. Did he come to us, or did we go to him with asking about extending this?
I don't have the answer.
Would you like me to?
Charlie's unmuted.
Am I still muted?
No.
We can hear you, Charlie.
All right. Well, basically what happened was a few weeks ago, I was talking to Ed and I said, well, it's fairly obvious that the board's not going to be able to move forward fast enough to go through a hiring process. So I suggested to him that with pay, I get continued until the end of October. And that'll give the town some breathing room, or the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, breathing room to move this thing forward without us having more bumps in the road with the process. And that's where the October date came up, because I looked at the calendar and saw the process and realized that probably looking at mid-October by the time you settle on what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a realistic time frame.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
The other part to this that you have to appreciate is we're now moving into the grant cycle for climate remediation and other federal monies that are becoming available. So you want somebody that's still at the helm here that deals with that stuff to keep moving Southampton forward.
Any other comments about the EMD position, timetable, stipend, anything?
Well, I'm just a little confused. So if we were to go with then making this a paid position for these interim months, then this would be July, August, and September as well. right? So there's 6 months of the money gone at that point in time, by the time we do a hiring, right?
Right. Well, more than that, you have September and part of October, or even
Well,
all of
I mean-
October.
Wait, what are you talking about? No, didn't we get 15 grand?
Right, but I mean,
Right.
we've agreed on paying out 3, and that took us through June, so.
Yeah,
if
so we have
do this as a-
$12,000 left from July 1 for the entire fiscal year. So July, August, September, October. That's 4 months.
Yes,
Right,
So you
my
reduce
only
it
point
to-
is, we will have used 6 months of it before we actually get into the hiring phase of the position, is my point.
Because we can't hire before October? What?
right.
It'll take a while to get it going, Matt, PQB and posting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to push for it being done by the end of September, if at all possible. I also, my understanding is 3 months, and that Charlie, you had offered to extend up until the vote of the election. So it wasn't my understanding that the July and August was paid, because at that point we didn't even know if we had it. So anyway, was that your thinking, that you were going to get retroactive pay for July and August and on top of September and October?
My understanding was that I was getting paid for July and August because I was working July and August. And the idea of the September, October was simply because of the fact that you still need an EMD, because my understanding of the state law is if I'm not the EMD and you don't hire somebody, Rainey, you become the EMD.
Yeah, well, we didn't have an EMD, Charlie. We didn't have a stipend for the EMD for quite a long time when you and Dawn were doing it. So I think it's a luxury right now that we have this group. The select board didn't even find out about the stipend until way too late in the process. So we feel like we're having to retrospectively make decisions that we would have preferred to have a little more advance notice on. So what other comments do you have? What would you like to do?
I want to follow up on Charlie's question then. Was that a conversation you and Ed had, Charlie, about the understanding of getting paid for July and August? Or no?
That was my understanding.
Okay, Ed, was that your understanding?
Yes, it was.
So it sounds like a town official spoke to somebody on this, so we got to be careful, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we voted quite a long time ago for the 3 months before the end of the fiscal year, so it was not our expectation or understanding that that was going to include retrospective payments. But anyway, that's already done. Would somebody like to make a motion? Any further discussion?
Discussion, we're looking to post this to hire somebody, and some of the conversation is getting around, let's save some money so when we hire somebody we can pay them, but yet we got a fully qualified person now in place that some people don't want to pay. I think that's kind of you're slamming somebody for doing great work and volunteering, but you're not interested in paying that. So, I think we should pay.
That's not the point. The point is, this board was not informed about this entire process. We did not see the line item for a CARES Act funding, including the EMD position, until after the grant was awarded.
Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful to Charlie. I've seen him out in the rain when a tree landed on someone's house. That is not the point whatsoever. It's about doing things according to a protocol. That's what is the difference here. And so I know we have a very qualified person, but if we want to do things the way they're intended to happen, then we would find out information beforehand. We would make educated decisions about what we wanted to do so that they would precede any kind of stipend or position, and we would open up the position like we're supposed to do with PQB and finance approval. I know Charlie's very qualified. There may be other people out there that are interested in the position, and so we're just trying to do things the way they're supposed to happen. That's all. It's not a kick in the face. We're very, very grateful, but we didn't know anything about paying him for July and August. I'm just talking about the protocol.
Yeah, we knew when we put the money in the CARES Act, we had a line item in there that was submitted. Ed worked on that.
But let me just say to you, we didn't know.
What do you mean we didn't know? Ed works for us. We knew.
No, I didn't know. We never saw that. We never saw that budget till after the fact.
Why is that? I remember
It never
seeing
came to our desk.
It never came to us.
Back in meetings and bring it to our attention. So that's neither here but here or there at this particular. That was never brought, we did not see, I had no idea an assistant, administrative assistant was in the budget for the fire department, radios. We had an article on the town meeting warrant for radios for the police department. So, it is what it is. That's why we're talking tonight about putting together a committee or having another committee help with getting these grants so that we can be ahead of these things instead of last minute. So I personally, and it sounds like other people in this committee, did not know what was included in the application for the CARES Act funding. I don't remember it ever being part of the select board meeting. If you had access to that information, it didn't occur during a select board meeting.
No, but it was out there. Jerry was working on it, the police chief and everybody was working on it. I mean, it was out there. And it seems like if our town administrator and EMD had conversations on that and we didn't know about it, but it was there, we need to support what our staff are saying. I mean, you guys can disagree, that's fine, but.
No, you don't see a problem with the select board not being involved in that, especially when it means funding for the position of the person who's requesting it? You don't see a problem with that? I don't see a problem right this minute because we're grateful to have Charlie. But if you don't see a problem with the fact that they're sitting there doing the application, including an EMD position in a grant, and the select board doesn't even know about it, and it's funding a position of the person who's applying, then that's a big problem.
Well, only on your side, Rainey. We knew this was funding in there. We knew that we were going to have funding in there, and we knew the CARES money was coming. We made the motion for April, May, and June relative to the CARES money coming. So I don't think we can stick our head in the sand on this one.
If you don't see a problem that somebody is working on a grant and funding their own position, and we only, as a select board, approve 3 months. So I'm happy entertain a motion to continue this in a paid position if someone would like to make that. I'm talking about the process, John, and we did not have any idea what the line items were of that CARES Act funding.
Well, sometimes the process and doing the right thing don't converge.
Well, John, that's not a good way. If it had worked out otherwise and we became liable for a situation, we are ultimately responsible. So I don't agree with you.
That's fine.
You can't put things together without the knowledge of the people who are supposed to. And the town needs to be made aware as well. I mean, it's not coming to the select board for us. It comes to us so that the town knows what's going on.
Yeah, okay. But if we end up with no EMD and Rini, you're taking over for it,
That's not, don't do that right now. Would someone like to make a motion, please?
I move that we go ahead and do the retroactive payment for the months of July, August, and September for the EMD position.
Is there a second?
And I'll second it.
Okay.
Do we want to do October? Do you think this is going to be done in 5 weeks? Posting it, getting somebody interviewed and hired?
If we make it a priority, why can't it be?
No, we
It
have
doesn't go that far. I mean, personally, if you make a motion, we're up to the end of October, and then if we hire somebody before, we just give whoever's it'd be Charlie in this case, notice that, okay, we hire somebody as of, October 7th or something. That'll give us leeway in the hiring process.
We have a motion by Chris and a second by Francine. Are either of you interested in changing your motion, or does anybody else have any comments?
I would certainly amend it or propose an amendment that says up until the end of October. I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
So to be clear, this is July, August, September, October as needed.
Right.
And do we have to specify the stipend?
Well, yes, of course we do.
That would be part of the motion, I would think.
Okay, so I will revise the motion, amend the motion to state that I move that we pay retroactively the monthly stipend at $1,000 a month for July, August, September, and up to the end of October as needed.
So does this stipend get paid regardless of whether or not anything ever happens? I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So to be clear, 15,000. It was a $15,000 award. 3,000 was committed for April, May, and June. So the motion is to pay out at $1,000 per month, so an additional $4,000 up until October. So July, August, September, and October, leaving $8,000 for once we post the position over the course of whenever.
Yeah.
So if everybody's in agreement with that, any further comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments that I just want to go on the record for saying. For me, this in no way, shape, or form guarantees that this position goes on as a paid position in the future. Charlie, I get that you're here, but this has got to go through the appropriate process. I appreciate very much what you do and how you do it. I appreciate that, but like this is coming from CARES Act. So number one, that doesn't guarantee it in the future. It's got to go through that process. And number two, I do not want the $1,000 a month to serve as precedent for our deliberations on whether or not we consider this to be paid or continue to be volunteer in the future. I'm going to go on record just to indicate that there has been no research or policy been done to indicate that $1,000 a month is commensurate with this job. It's been a volunteer position in town for years. So, I'm just going to say this, like, I'm fine with everything that we're doing right now, but I'm not going to be tied to the fact that, oh, we agreed to $1,000 in the past. So if we agree to pay this in the future, it's $1,000. There's a lot more work to be done here in terms of hours put in, whether or not this is considered a priority when we are looking at our list of priorities in the fall. So I'm not trying to be rude. I appreciate you giving me the thumbs up, Charlie, here. I very much respect what you do, and you're clearly qualified for this, but this has to be weighed in the balance of everything else that we're dealing with. And there's clearly a lot, especially given what we shut off during our budget season here. So just to be clear, that's all I had to say.
I mean, just as a follow-up, didn't PQB score this as an hourly?
I don't recall. I'm sure
Yes, they did.
it's gone through the process, but
Yeah, so whatever the process is, it is. I agree with
The
you. Yeah.
memo dated the 28th of December, and it comes from Art Lawrence, and it says, the Personnel Policies and Procedure Board were asked by Charlie Knicky to score the Emergency Management Director position at the September 19th, 2019 meeting. The PQ believes the Select Board wants to make the EMD position a paid town employee position. If the above is correct, and it tells basically the process, job description, and then approved by PQB, scored with a pay range, submit a PRF with the starting salary, the usual process. There was debate at some point whether a stipend position needs to go through this process, but according to PQB, it does.
But let me just raise something here. The implication of what you just read is that this is a permanent position, regardless of who holds it. And I appreciate now what Matt said for the intent of this grant money, and when the grant is over, in what we're looking at now, 10 months, the salary is gone. So, I mean, we're talking I know this is the process we have to follow, but I think we need to be very clear that it may not continue to be a stipended position in the future.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in the budget process, that would take care of it for fiscal 22. We decide whether there's money in there or not, and go from there. This just brings us through fiscal 21, this CARES money, right?
Yeah, I think this should revert to a volunteer position because it's based only on receiving money from the CARES Act. And once that money is over, it's over. And unless we start getting grants for paying positions in town, this is not something that should be a continuous assumption of a paid position. We've got it now. We're lucky for it. Great. But, once the money runs out.
I don't think it should be a continuous assumption, but I do think that this is a very important position in town, and I do know that the person that was doing it before Charlie left, partly because the amount of work and coordination involved, and it was not a paid position. So it would be great if we could get funding for this position, because I think it's a very, very important position. All I'm asking is that things be done according to a protocol that's established. And I think that we have to be very careful when the memo to the PQB is Charlie's requesting this to be done, and the application is being worked on by Charlie for the CARES CARES Act funding. So I think he's very qualified. I appreciate everything you do. I'm just asking that we be very careful about conflict of interest and things like that.
And going through the process whereby we were apprised of what was going on, which we weren't.
We've got a hand up.
See, you're going to have to help me, folks, because I actually, I mean, I upgraded before, and I'm still not seeing everybody's picture. So go ahead. Who's asking to speak?
Janet?
Can you mute her, please, Ed?
Sure.
Try it. Hello? Okay, good. Hi, Janet Kane from Glendale Road. I used to be on the PPPB committee or board. I just wanted to say that on the PCF, you have to designate the funding source. So when you designate the funding source, it makes it very clear that if the funds aren't there, then the position is no longer funded for that period. So I mean, it's a safeguard if it's from a funding source. So I just wanted to throw that in.
And also, if there's $8,000 left in the fund, we're saying, or we're approving, or we haven't voted yet, but up till now, we have said that $1,000 per month, at least that's the motion of what was previously approved. But the remaining money in the account from the CARES Act funding is $8,000. So it doesn't say it has to be this or that. So just a reminder that we can further decide how that wants to be distributed, how we want that distributed. So we have a motion and second to approve 4 months of funding at $1,000 per month to Charlie to extend through the end of October for the EMD position. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Tishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
And Groden, aye. All right, thank you. And Ed, if you can pull the other things together, a draft for us, that would be great, so we can move this along before we
Sure.
it all as a temporary position. And thank you, Charlie, for all the work that you're doing, especially right now. Please don't interpret this discussion about not being grateful for everything you're doing. I'd like to not talk about the capital committee assignment. I'd like to jump down, if everybody's okay with that, to where it says on a new business committee to seek grants, MEMA, FEMA, CARES Act, etc. And the reason I do want to do that is are people okay with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Charlie had initiated discussion about this, as did Matt, about expanding the role of the capital committee. Right now, just like after 9/11, when you have a disaster like this, there's a lot of funding available, and that is the case. And so the feeling is if there could be a committee that could help Ed with searching the grants, writing the grants, all of that, determining what the department needs are, then you'll get the money when you go after it, when the money's available. And so their suggestion originally was that the capital committee be involved in helping with this process, since this is more or less the process they go through when they look at capital funds. Then last week or the week before, we talked about that's not really part of the bylaws of the capital committee. Other people in the capital committee were not even aware of this possibility. So then there's been additional discussion about who would be on the committee, because right now there's an appointed X number of people on capital. So before we talk about who ends up being appointed to capital, or whether it be capital committee or some other mechanism for this happening, can I just ask the board what their thoughts are about this?
Well, honestly, in this category of funding where it's really tied to specific departments, I see it as the responsibility of those departments that are most affected to take the lead in initiating, A, in knowing that money's available, and B, initiating the effort to apply for it. I don't see that necessarily as an external function. That's
What do you
my
mean?
thought.
You mean, Francine, you mean it should be just within the departments?
Well, when we're looking at the department, I'm saying it should be within the departments to look at these particular funding sources, the availability of funding, and then, you know, and submitting application. If we're looking for funding on more of a conceptual level through foundations or through, you know, other state and federal sources where there's a lot of, I think, heavy-duty research and writing associated with that, I think that deserves an additional committee to focus on grants. But this is really where there's money available, fill out this form, send it in kind of thing. I don't know that it's a lot of original writing. It's not my concept of a grant.
Okay, you're talking about MEMA and FEMA specifically?
That's it.
Okay, you're talking about MEMA and FEMA.
Right.
Okay. Other people? Any other thoughts?
But just, it seems like a few departments have gone ahead and done that kind of thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think Chief Workman has applied for and gotten a couple of grants for things. The police department has gotten some grants. So whenever they see things coming down their alleyway, they have jumped on those. And I think is that the point, Francine, you were trying to make, right? Is that if they know of stuff that usually gets put out on a yearly basis, and especially now with the COVID related stuff, then it seems to be, you know, Board of Health has got to be heavily involved, et cetera. Those funds are MEMA and FEMA related. You know, there's something that I think comes across Ed's desk probably faster than it comes across our desk on that, to be aware of what's coming. But that's a different thing, I think, too, than actually going out and proactively looking at possible sources of grants way ahead of anything being announced to see if we qualify for anything else.
Thank you, Chris.
I was going to say, I see it kind of as an adjunct function where a committee, because we have a lot of talented people in town that may have done this in prior lives, that they could be out there as a committee looking for these grants and talking to the department heads specific to the grant and help them apply for the grant. We're talking about Chief Workman, you know, if he's real busy and he doesn't see a grant and misses it, and this has happened in departments over the years, not necessarily fire, somebody say, oh, you missed that grant last year, we missed an opportunity at $50,000. We had a committee that was interested in helping out, we weren't paying them anything. It can only be a positive for grants. You know, they're not going to cost us anything, and if they get us one extra grant a year for, I don't know, $50,000, it's well worth the effort. We just need to find the people that are interested in that niche, you know, of business, and I'm sure there's a lot of them out there.
Well, I agree. I think that that's a lot of work, you know, work to, you know, stop what you're doing with whatever you're doing within a department, including Ed, and really you know, putting a microscope on where are these funds. Some of them might just be applications, and other ones might be a little bit more involved. But I think that when there's an opportunity and a lot of funding available, this is the time to really reach out and get it, frankly. I think that capital, if we have to go through changing a bylaw, which has to go to town meeting and all of that, I think that, I don't know that the capital committee of 5 or even non-voting members, whatever, are the best way to go. I mean, I would think that even an ad hoc committee for 6 months to a year with, I know Matt, you offered, I know Chris Falls offered, Charlie obviously would be a good person with all of his MEMA, FEMA knowledge. I mean, it seems the fastest way to make this happen is to, you know, appoint an ad hoc committee for a period of time, see what happens with COVID and with various funding opportunities, and ask other people to join that have either grant writing experience or, and then do exactly, you know, some of the work with what Capital does, which is going to the various department heads and asking about what their needs are. So, I mean, I think that it might be a better put together committee if it was involved with people more focused on emergency management and or, you know, grant writing. Does, I mean, it's one more.
I'm sorry. I said we saw what happened with the Open Space Committee. I mean, Rini knows that firsthand. And, you know, people said, oh, we're going to need that. All of a sudden, that just gelled, took off, and, you know, now it's a permanent committee. So you never know where these go. So having an ad hoc committee and testing it out, I think, is a good way to see.
And I think people will say we don't even have enough people to fill the committees we have. But I think if we have willing people that know that, I mean, if COVID ends up keep going on and there, you know, we continue to have the dire economic and health consequences we have, you know, it can certainly, you know, be in place for as long as we need it to be in place. But I do think that even though the department heads, I would hope that they would be looking for funding. I think that to have a centralized way of looking at what's available and dedicated people that are willing to do this extra commitment for 6 months, a year or so, I think we can only win from that if there are people willing.
Yeah. I've seen it in the past, not necessarily is that the way we're going, but you hire somebody and you base that person on, you're going to get paid if you bring X amount of grants in. So over the course of time, you may find out this ends up being a position that's paid because they're bringing in 2, 3, 4, 5 times of what we're paying them. I'm not sure it'll go that way, but there have been times that I've been involved with at different companies that happened. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I mean, I know right now we're looking at everything that's COVID related, but there are needs that, grow out from that particular issue. And my concern on a committee is to make sure that there is adequate representation of all the groups in this process so that it doesn't become just focused on the people who are there and their interests in their departments. It has to be a broader focus. And so I think an external group will be more proactive, I think, in looking ahead to the needs of the town. I'm thinking we need a public safety. I mean, we have other things on our plate in addition to COVID. So while we have a group of people who are department heads who are aware of funding streams, like Hampshire Regional gets money all the time.
Right.
Okay, they do it themselves. So if we look to department heads for that kind of funding, and yet we establish this other group that has kind of a broader charge, including helping with this. I'm not saying they would be not participate in this at all, but have kind of a broader view of what the town needs and start looking for the funds if they have the skills or the talents. That's what I'm looking for.
I think the thing, though, is, keep in mind, the reason why this money is available is because of COVID. So it's just like 9/11. There was all the security. That's where everybody got their public safety complexes, was money from the federal government because of 9/11. So I think that, we could say that it would be broader. I would hope that, like the seniors and the library and other places like that would, be asked about the needs and would be also educated about opportunities, that there'd be a collaborative relationship. But the reality is a lot of the money that's available right now is because of COVID. So that's why the plexiglass and the fire department and the EMD, and that's the reality of it. So I was thinking it more as a temporary thing, which we can just see where it goes. If it ends up being something that can meld and combine with public safety or something, public health. But, there might be some limits because this, the funding that's available right now is heavily because of the pandemic. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, again, the MEMAs and FEMAs are going to be things that are announced to us. They're going to be coming at us, and we need to react to those. So that's one thing. But there are other possibilities out there, I think, where we need to be proactive and look for things that might be of use to a different kind of department, a different need that has been identified, for example. And certainly with the federal government, their fiscal year, begins October 1st. So if we did something for a 6-month period, that might be the best way to go, to have an ad hoc committee for 6 months and see what happens.
Hey, Charlie, can I ask you a question? Ed, would you mind unmuting him?
Oh, sure.
I don't know if people realize how much Charlie has been, how much he's done to help with PPE. A huge amount of PPE and all of the, even getting in his car and driving all the way down to Agawam, Southwick. So, you are very connected to FEMA and MEMA. The CARES Act, what we saw as an application was pretty much a line item thing. There wasn't a lot of, substantiating of, the need for this, that, or whatever. It was simply a budget line item. As far as FEMA and MEMA go, Charlie, are there, is the application pretty straightforward? Is when they offer funding for various things, is it pretty much tied to a very narrow, list of possibilities?
The COVID application was the most simplified application I've seen in years.
Yeah.
Typically, when you see applications for grants, you will see that you need to do a cost-benefit analysis in relationship to that, and you need to take and do marketing of justification of need. An example is the emergency generator at the town hall. That was a 2+ year lobbying with the state legislators to have that put into the state budget so that the town would receive that during one of the budget processes. So it's sort of an indirect grant. But then if you start looking at the climate control grant modifications, the water line that we have funding now to take and put in underneath Route 10 by the bridge by the old ice cream place, that required a cost-benefit analysis, but it also required a partnership with Fishery and Wildlife to co-sign with us so that they could receive federal money to take the dam down. So there's a lot of internal lobbying that goes on with these grants. It's not like, you know, the CARES Act was, like I said, so simplified it was almost silly compared to the normal applications for stuff. You're going to see there is more money now coming down the federal line for climate issues and infrastructure development. Ed and I have looked at that stuff, and we're in the infancies of starting to decide what to approach. There's dialogue developing between the police chief relative to this, but I don't want to put that on a public forum right now. But there's the other part to it too. There's grant applications that the town's been successful with the green community. I believe presently we're eligible for like $130,000 of improvements there. We also have the capability, as time goes on, to look at more grants for the senior center type operations, the public safety complexes. These things are available, but they're in the back right now because of COVID. Right. But they haven't gone away. They're there. There's a lot of agricultural grants that have been created that you know, the Ag Committee's been looking at. If I may be candid, I have no problem with putting together an ad hoc committee to take and start exploring this. The key is going to be having somebody that's the focal point of that committee that is going to have to be able to report back to the select board and in concert with the town administrator.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think as opposed to capital, which would mean, you know, you can't just say, let's just do this in addition to what we do with the, group of 5 people. I think because the function is similar, it made sense, but I think that there might be other configurations of people that actually might end up making it more successful, and it might actually be able to get started a lot faster. I mean, right now between you, Charlie, Ed, and Matt, and Chris, all of you have offered to be part of this. It seems logical if you're all willing and you really think we're going to end up getting more money this way than if we didn't do this. I'd support the 4 of you putting together a committee that included, I don't know that it has to include every department head or, whatever, but I mean, Ed's reports to us, and we have 2 select board members. I mean, Chris used to work for, in Washington and has a lot of experience with looking for grants. She already offered to be helpful. Matt was one of the drivers of this and is an expert on Excel. And so it just seems like, I mean, we have 4 people that could start, tomorrow. And I would trust, you folks to be able to assemble a group of people that could work together and maybe generate some money for the town now that we're in this, COVID money available period of time. I mean,
I'm fine with that. And you're right. There are some aspects of the capital committee that is, how would I say this, are restrictive to being able to respond quickly. Putting together an ad hoc committee, I mean, realistically, if you think about the open space committee, that when I was on the select board, that was one of the discussions that triggered that to all come together. So, yeah, but the ball, in my feeling, has to start from the select board. They have to initiate the fact that they want to have this committee. And then they have to pick a few people with the understanding that this thing is probably going to roll out to be larger.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, I know both Matt and Chris had offered to be a part of this and to look for funding and work together and be, fair in terms of reaching out to the departments. I mean, don't you think that this would be more successful than just allowing the department heads individually or Ed to, look for things and apply for them as they come? I can't help thinking that this would actually make us receive more money.
I agree with you. I think trying, and this is no slam to the department heads, but I think you'll find the department heads focus on their departments. That's where their allegiance lies. If you take and have a committee, I mean, I would look forward to sparring with Matt. Matt and I have a good time arguing and then walking away, shaking our heads and going back together again. Yeah, we could make this work.
I mean, Charlie's strength in this is that he knows he clearly knows where all of this money's coming from. Chris obviously has a strength in this to understand if grants need to be written and policy and procedure. Frankly, I'm just good at kind of bird dogging this, really, like organizing it in Excel, making sure that we get answers from people, hounding them until we do, so that they feel included and that they are included, and that at least we have documentation that they decided to go for it or not go for it, if they have needs or don't. So, I mean, I know that between the three of us here, like we really, there's definitely pieces of the puzzle here. As far as including others, like, yeah, I mean, the more the merrier. It's just that my concern is that we have trouble rounding out all of our committees to begin with here. So just food for thought. I mean, I got a whole long list of open positions in town, both paid and unpaid, that nobody seems to want to play with.
As a short-term situation, I mean, Diana Fetterman's been very, very successful in the Open Space Committee of writing grants and actually getting funded. I think Francine had mentioned somebody else that had a lot of grant writing experience. I mean, I'd be fine with I would include Ed too in this, but I would be fine with the four of you, assembling as a foursome and then deciding who else to bring in. I would just ask that that however processes that you include some of the departments that don't always get front burner attention.
I think one of the things that could help too is that because there might be some grants that are kind of yearly offerings, and again, having a touch base with the various department heads is, okay, which one is, what do you usually have coming at you in the fall? Is there a grant that you usually know of and it's got a, November 12th deadline? Let's make a master list of, what grants we know of that we routinely have seen come at us so that we can be on top of those and try and apply for them. But then there's beyond that as well.
Chris, I totally agree with you. We have no schedule of grant applications and we definitely need that. And most of these grants are annual grant applications.
Right.
Sounds like an exception to me.
I just wanted to say I think this external group, absent, I'm not saying leaving out department heads, but can put a process in place that kind of overarches all of the departments in the town. And I think that's, as outsiders, I think that's a very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think what somebody was saying before, you may not want department heads on the committee because they may be vested in their own interests, but if they know the committee is working for each and every one of them and bring them in on a regular basis to keep them updated and ask for their input, I think that would be the best way to go.
Yeah. I think you'll build a strong team that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a simple Outlook calendar with reminders will keep everything organized.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see how this, it's got to be helpful. I mean, Charlie, you have access to a lot of information about funding. I know that I imagine it would be a help to Ed, but again, I think similar to the CARES Act, I think it's important that the report back to the select board. And if we do have Chris and Matt who are both interested, I would imagine that would be part of sort of reporting back, just like John and I were both on open space and now, it's a standing committee and now there's a Friends of Open Space and there's all kinds of grants for trails and all that. So I've always, this could be the beginning of a grant, like really going after grants left and right. But I think that right now, I think just kind of setting it up as, 6 months to a year, at least for now, because I'm sure that that's where the funding will be, because I don't think the COVID is anywhere near over. So does it make sense for at least the four of you, including Ed, to follow up as soon as possible, have a meeting and at least decide, who else should be included and start looking for, getting started? I mean, I was just thinking that would be a lot faster than trying to go through an existing committee, even though there's a similar function.
I mean, eventually we have to set this up as an official committee and vote on it, but can they just get together and talk about it and come back with a plan?
I think we should probably have a motion, because I think there should be a motion to have them meet and maybe come back with something, what their mission is, and, nothing, I don't think it has to be a major bylaw development. I just think that I'd feel better if there was, they were authorized by the board to.
Well, we're going to need to establish a chief on this, and meaning that if we're going to do this, it just can't be out in the open here. And if this is going to be between me, Chris, and Charlie, I just want to raise my hand and just admit the fact that, I'm not trying to cry here, but I got a lot going on right now. I cannot head this up. There's a crushing weight at this time of year. I just gotta, I'm dedicated to the things I'm dedicated to. I will be dedicated to this, and I'm happy to play a part of it, but I can't be the chief of it. I don't know if Chris wants to do that or if Charlie does, but I'd love to be a part of it. I will dedicate myself to it because that's what I do when I commit to something, but I can't lead this.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, I think I wouldn't mind trying to head it up and see if we can get organized. Sure.
Okay. Would somebody just?
I'll make a motion. You want me to make a motion, Rita, to get this going?
That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we form an ad hoc committee to seek grants from various, grants for all departments. And we start with appointing Chris, Matt, Ed, and Charlie, and then they come back to us with a more formal plan and some possible additional members to the committee at one of the next couple of meetings, if that makes sense.
Yep, that sounds great. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. And thank you, all of you, for offering to do this. I can't imagine it's going to be, it's got to be helpful.
It should be fun too, Rainey, because this is going to be interesting to explore new options. I'm going to have to drop off the meeting now. I have someone else here that wants to talk to me about public health issue.
Okay, did you want to say a word or two about, because we're jumping back to Capitol. There are two interested parties in being in Capitol. I know you sent an email, Charlie. It wasn't official form that we usually use, but did you want to say anything about that before? Because I was going to ask you and Janet to both say a word or two about your interest in the committee and have the select board discuss it.
Well, I've been on that Capitol Committee for a number of years. I chaired it for a number of years. I've always tried to give my all to it. I've always tried to take all the requests, collate everything so that when the committee met, they had good documentation of what was being requested and why. I've always stepped out of the box and met with the different departments and groups and stuff that were requesting funding to have a better understanding. And I've always presented it to the town meeting so that the town members would understand why the necessity was there or why the necessity wasn't there. I enjoyed that committee tremendously, and I would like to throw my hat back in there and just continue on.
Charlie, are you willing to say, or even in general terms, you had recently resigned from that committee. Was there just, was it just personal reasons? Is there anything that would help us? And
just kind of point of order, it wasn't a resignation, his term ran out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Your term ran out.
That's correct. My term ran out. I did not resign.
Okay.
And I was looking at everything else going on in my life, and I was trying to sort out what I was going to prioritize. My consulting business in public health is booming nowadays for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to figure out where I was going.
Okay, thank you. So I think a lot of the terms expired June 30th, is that right? And we didn't reappoint anybody up till now? Is that it, Ed?
That would be correct.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate your, all you're doing.
You guys have a good evening.
Yep, you too.
Thanks.
See ya.
Is Janet Kane on here? Would you mind unmuting Janet? Please, Ed?
Yeah. There we go.
And I'm going to, and this is Francine, at this point, I'm just going to remove myself because of my, there's somebody else talking. Okay, I'm just going to, like, as I said, if I could walk out of the room, I would, but I can't because of Zoom for this part of the conversation, just because of my relationship with Janet.
Okay.
Okay? I don't want
Okay,
any appearance of any particular bias or conflicts.
All right, thanks, Francine.
Thank you.
Good evening,
Janet?
everybody. Hi, how are you?
Good.
So I guess my main interest and one of my multiple interests, it was my understanding that the letter went out that said that Charlie wasn't interested in continuing for another term. So that's why I threw my name in the hat. I didn't know it was just a missed reappointment, but so I've served on Finance Committee for 3 years, the infamous Finance Committee. And I'm currently on the Housing Authority, I'm on the Board of Assessors, and also the chair of the Council on Aging. I've gotten a lot of encouragement from the seniors in town that feel that they need their interest, an advocate for them on capital, and that's one of the main reasons I was encouraged to move forward to put my hat in the ring. I have a lot of experience with large purchases, or when I was at Canon USA, I was the senior director for planning and marketing of 100,000 plus pieces of equipment. So I'm used to, dealing with large purchases. But I guess my main thing is I feel I have a good experience. I feel a fresh set of eyes, and I just feel that between housing and the seniors, it'll bring some advocacy there. And that's my main interest.
All right, thank you, Francine. Janet. Anybody else would like to speak to the appointment for Capital Committee?
How many openings do we have, Renee?
We have one. Would someone be willing, maybe Matt, could you tell us who is currently on Capital?
Yes, sorry. So I'm on it. I believe I'm the vice chair. As of my last recollection. Charlie was the chair that resigned. We haven't reorganized. We got Margaret Larson, Sharon Hartz, and Roger Ball. Thank you. Roger Ball Jr., just to be even more clear. So we got, it's a 5-person committee. We got 4 members. It's me, Margaret, Sharon, and Roger are the existing crew.
So is the number 5 cast in stone somewhere, or is that just a random number?
No, it's cast in stone.
Okay.
It's part of the bylaws.
Okay.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else like?
Just to, it is, the 5 is part of the bylaws, whether the select board member is a voting member of it, which makes it the 5th. So it might be 4 plus the select board. I don't know how it's written, but it is definitely 5.
It's 5 that actually the select board had appointed you as an official member.
Right, a voting.
Rather than liaison.
So it's a total of 5, right, Ed?
Correct. The select board had appointed Matt as a regular member to the Capital Committee and not as liaison, so.
So Ed, you broke up. So with the select board member, is there 4 extra or 5 extra?
4.
So it's 5 in total. Matt was appointed not as a liaison, but as an actual member of the Capital Committee.
Oh, okay, that's right. I was yes, that's right. So I serve as both the liaison and a voting member because there was a vacancy, and I I was happy to be on it.
Okay. So there are currently 4 members. This assignment would make it 5. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to this issue?
There's a hand up. Lori?
Lori.
Hi, Lori. Would you mind unmuting Lori Loisel, please, Ed?
I can do that.
Ed, is there any way that you can give me control of my own mute, or is that not possible?
No, it's not possible.
Okay, because I used to be able to have control over my mute.
Yeah, if once you mute yourself, you're muted, I'll have to let you unmute you again.
Yeah, but why can't we go back to the way where it was we just kind of unmute ourselves?
Because the chair specifically asked for the meetings to be set up this way.
Okay.
That was when we had a very large number of people that joined us for the meeting. We can discuss that as a committee. It's not necessarily just my input, but yeah, that's when we had a large number of people coming to join us, if you remember correctly, on the budget discussion.
No, I get that. It's just I like that. I'm just gonna say this. I like to have control over my mute. I got kids running around here right now, and I'd rather not have some strange thing come across the airwaves. Can happen.
Well, you can mute yourself. You just can't unmute yourself.
I can't get back off without doing some type of smoke signal over here.
Okay, let's hear from Lori Loisel, please. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Rainey. Lori Loisel, Hillside Meadows. I would just really quickly, as an advocate for the seniors in town, and I know that I've addressed this before, that 1/3 of the population are the seniors. And I just want to say, I think Charlie has done a great job. He's been in for a number of years. And it might be time for new blood. We're keeping Charlie busy with 1,000 other items. And it would be nice to have somebody who is involved with the seniors, who goes to their meetings, is involved in activities, and would have an insight as to what the seniors are looking for. That would be it.
All right, thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Lori. I would agree, Lori. I like Charlie. I think he's done a great job, but Janet will bring a different perspective. So if you're looking for a motion, I would make a motion. We appoint Janet.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? I think it's nice that we have actually more than one person who would like to be appointed to a commission.
Once. Nice.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, so all those in favor?
Fowles eye.
Rolling.
That was for 3 years.
And Groden, aye. Thank you. That was, John made the motion and Chris seconded it.
And Francine abstained, I assume, or?
And Francine abstained. Thanks, John. Yep. And thank you, Janet, very much for stepping up.
Was that for a 3-year term?
That, I think, was for a 1-year term, wasn't it? Let me look and see. No, maybe I'm confusing it with another appointment. I thought that, yeah, I'm not really sure. We should include that in there. Does somebody have access to the website pretty quickly?
I can do this.
Okay.
What do you want to know? What we just appointed?
How long is that term?
All right.
Are they staggered 3-year terms?
I believe it should
I
be.
think it's lifetime.
Yeah, it's 3. It's 3 years if his term expired. It's not like it's an appointment. It's not like it's an appointment to fill a term. So it must be a 3-year term, right?
Correct.
I'm not positive though. Some of these committees, they have, they even out the score with 5 by having 2, 3 and 2, or so I think we should verify that.
I mean, the position that we're filling is Charlie's. So like the one, that vacancy. So,
Okay.
So, I mean, mine expires. Well, actually, we got to reappoint Margaret Larson, it appears. As well.
Well, the website may not be up to date. Hang on, let me go pull the master
Margaret
list.
and Charlie expire in 2020. It looks fairly accurate. I mean, the only thing that's not accurate is that Roger abdicated the chair position to Charlie.
So if Margaret expired 2020, that's like now.
Yeah, and I don't believe we reappointed her between July 1 and now.
No.
Yeah.
So, theoretically, if Charlie wants to, continue to put his hat in the ring, there might be another appointment. But we should make a note in the minutes that this term to expire would be, if this is 2020, be 2023.
Are these 3-year things?
Well, that's what we're trying to decide, Matt.
Ed went to look, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a 3-year or 2-year.
But I think too, we need to reach out to Margaret to find out if she wants to be reappointed, right?
I think we should look to see, because I can't remember this, but it says that Sharon's been expired for a year, and I don't think that's true.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's true.
Lucy's on top of this. She wouldn't let that happen. So I think it's just the website is not up to date. So we just need to, figure out who's current and who's not.
Okay, but for our meeting purposes, we just have to know the term to expire is
Right now, yeah.
whatever.
For this particular one, yeah.
Yeah. If Ed went to check that out, then do we want to move along and do some select board reports while we're waiting?
Sure.
Or what would you like to do? Would you like to wait?
These go long enough. I'd like to continue if possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who would like to start?
Mine is very short and simple. We had a Concom meeting this past week, and the main thing was issuing the order of conditions back to the town, essentially, with Ed being the representative of the town for the East Street Bridge. So Concom has done all that they need to do with their wetlands regulations, and the order has been issued. So then it goes on to the next step, and it's out of Concom's hands. Then there was just normal regular business on notices of intent, etc. There will be a Board of Assessors meeting coming up this Thursday afternoon at 4:30 at the Conan Park Pavilion. And the Master Plan Implementation Committee will meet on Monday night at 7 o'clock via Zoom. And that is the last day of our survey. So anybody that still needs to, please put in your surveys. Thank you.
How many do you have so far, Chris?
It's around 730 or so, 730-ish. So hopefully a few more.
What's your goal?
That's a good number.
That is great.
Yeah. What was your goal?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for 800, just cause, no particular reason. But we exceeded the 10%, which PVPC thought, we would be great if we got 10%. So we have exceeded that. So, we can be proud of that. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Any questions?
No.
Who else would like to report?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Francine, is she back?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm back.
Would you or John like to report any select board reports?
Sure. There was a Hampshire Regional High School committee meeting last night. I'd like to start with some good news, is that HRHS received a notice that their remote learning grant application for approximately $184,000 was approved, and that money's being used to purchase the laptops for students and faculty. And obviously that money is going to go to replenish the school choice account out of which those items were purchased previously. They also received word from FEMA that is accepting project applications for an indefinite period going forward. Originally, the projects had to be submitted by September, so this is kind of an open-ended thing. And as we're going through this process of reopening the schools, many, many more needs are going to be coming up. So the fact that it's kind of open application opportunities for them is really good. I'll mention a few of the things that they've gone through in preparation for reopening the school. They had a fire and building inspection that was conducted, and the school got a clean bill of health. They had a thorough evaluation of their HVAC system, and the capacity of the system allows for 2 full air exchanges per hour per room. Each room has its own air exchange unit, and the district has ordered the requisite MERV 13 filters that I think the CDC is recommending for each classroom. The classroom doors are going to be kept closed when they have in-person instruction to prevent cross-contamination from room to room. Now, just to put this in perspective, they can do 2 full air exchanges per hour per room. And the building is about, I think, 10, 20 years old. Newer buildings have the capability and the capacity for 3 to 4 air exchanges, full air exchanges per hour. I see Tammy putting up her hand. 5.
0. 50.
50. Oh, wow. Okay. So that puts that in perspective. Thank you, Tim. Some of the school opening activities that the school is going to be hosting an in-person orientation for the 19 new students who will be enrolling in grades 8 through 12 on September 4th. To make note here that special education and high-risk students will attend in person 5 days a week when school opens, September 16th. And there's a school safety committee that's working with the Board of Health in Easthampton on safety and with the faculty on safety protocols which will require the school committee's approval when they complete their work. The school committee voted in principle to conduct athletic programs which may begin on September 18th according to the MIAA, as long as those sports are determined to be safe. It's still uncertain which sports will be allowed. There are several entities, including the Department of Education, as well as the State Health Department, whose guidelines have not yet been finalized on athletic activities. Each sport has a committee that will determine what each sport can do safely to prevent any COVID transmissions. Any sport determined to be a high risk is not going to be allowed. And those guidelines are coming out on September 1st. There was discussion about parents signing liability waivers and agreements to assure the school that they would practice compliance, COVID compliance activities at home. That hasn't been finalized, but that was a discussion item. Just so that you know that the athletic coaches are fully behind re-engaging all the permissible sports as soon as school returns and they're able to do that. Just to make a note that while some fall sports may be postponed, and they're setting up what they call a second season, which will begin in February, if, again, coming back to the fact, if allowed. The state monitors the incidence of cases to determine the district's eligibility to operate athletic programs. Southampton, as the largest community in the regional district, will be the barometer for other member towns. What that means is that if cases of COVID increase in Southampton beyond what the state determines to be acceptable, that all the athletic programs at Hampshire Regional will be suspended, so that we understand our role in this whole process. Then moving off of athletics and onto business, the business manager reported on discussions with the transportation company. As a regional district, all schools will be committed to the same contractual terms. So we're talking 4 elementary schools and the high school. At issue is that all schools are not opening up at the same time or even at the same rate. It's a complicated situation, and although the state will reimburse the district for actual expenses, we have to come up with a plan that will work for the entire district. The business manager continues to work on the contract terms in the best interest of all the towns, and that's like juggling balls when you're dealing with so many different entities. And just on the end, on a good note, the school received and accepted an anonymous donation of $1,000 for non-COVID back-to-school gifts for both faculty and students. And I don't know what that's going to entail, but it was a great idea. And for people who want more information on the school's plans for reopening, I suggest you go to the Hampshire Regional website. The next meeting, they had one last night, their next meeting is tomorrow night, where all the committees of all 5 towns will be meeting on Zoom. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of participation. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Francine. Any questions for Francine? Francine, we heard about the superintendent resigning. Did they mention, or are there plans for a committee for a search committee?
I was not privy to, I had difficulty getting on last night because of problems with my town government. I don't know whether or not that was at the beginning of the meeting or not. I know it's public knowledge. It was in the newspaper. I believe there's a group, a search committee. I'm not sure, that they would complete their process. I know that initially, I think they're working off a list of retired superintendents in the area to kind of get perhaps someone in the interim because the notice was for 2 months, but I don't have any more information other than that.
Tammy has her hand
If you want to open Tammy's mic, if she has more information, that would be the way to get it.
Tamara Lunas, College Highway, Hampshire Regional School Committee. Yes, we have been having more school committee meetings than just once a month. We went to 2 every 2 weeks, and now we're having like 2 meetings every week. We have a joint meeting with all of the school committees and their chairs on Wednesday evening. And at that point, we'll be discussing who's going to be leading up everything and who's going to be how we're going forward to get the intern in. And then that will only be a 1-year term. And then we'll be starting up the actual whole process of bringing in a whole new super.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tammy.
Yep.
John, do you have anything to report?
The only committee meeting I had was the planning board, which met on the 12th. Pretty standard. We had a A&R, which is approval not required for Gun Road building, and we had a continuation of a public hearing on a residential stormwater permit for Fulmer Road, which was interesting because the first time they presented it at the last meeting, the details weren't there with elevations and where all the water runoff was going, and neighbors were on the Zoom meeting. They had a lot of issues on that, so it was sent back to the architects to come back with more drawings and more elevations and how they're going to control the floodwater, which they did, and everything went well. It's just an interesting process. And then Addie Gambarini of the PVPC did a MS4 stormwater bylaw draft presentation. She did a great presentation. It was very interesting. I asked Paul Deeman if we could get a copy of that so we could share it. Then there were just reports of subcommittees, warrants, and minutes. So that was the meat of it, if you will. And Ed, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
The planning board is supposed to have a public hearing on High Street as a scenic road, and I guess they're waiting for information from you and direction on that?
Yeah, I got to get them the information on the butters list and what they need, what, if anything, they need to do besides the public hearing.
Is that something we can help with? Because it's been a couple of months, and there's people that are asking about that.
I'll get it. I've got a stack of paperwork on it that I researched, so I'll get that information to Paul this weekend.
Okay, let me know if I can help.
Sure.
That's it, Maureen.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, John. The Open Space Review Committee met on the 20th of August. The elected officers, Cindy Palmer will be the chair, Charlie McDonald, vice chair, and Diana Fetterman, the clerk. They discussed we discussed the criteria, the process for reviewing lands for open space potential, and then using a criteria that's been established. Each member will be reviewing certain maps. We have maps of all the entire community and looking at their conservation potential based on a number of factors, from contiguous for other properties, wildlife corridor, Barnes Aquifer, that sort of thing. So anyway, it's always a very lively committee, and we met at Conan Park on a beautiful day, so that was nice. Council on Aging is actually meeting next Wednesday, the 2nd of September. Board of Health met on the 19th of August. I wasn't able to go, but Charlie did send me a review They discussed a drive-by flu clinic project with the pharmacy. Don't have a lot of details on that. A memorandum of understanding was finalized with South Hadley for the COVID and other disease monitoring, the case tracing. They also passed along an animal regulation document to the Agricultural Committee for their review. It'll be a few months before that gets back and gets voted on. They had some housing demolition and other housing action. And I think that's mostly it. And I did ask Ed to have the Board of Health, we talked about, and Lori, if Lori Loisel's letter was read at the last select board member meeting, we talked about resuming the presentations by department heads. And there was a request by Lori, but also I would like to have the start with the Board of Health, possibly Jerry Swanson be at the next select board meeting so we can start the process of getting presentations. I think there's a lot that's been going on in the health department. It would be good to hear what's happening there. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Now, interestingly, on the Board of Health, there's multiple people running for one position, which is nice to see in a race, you know?
Yeah.
Any race.
Right. I think there's 3 positions available, and there's 2 that are unopposed, and then there's 2 people that were running for the 3rd position. So that's a good reminder to everybody out there to please vote in the local election, which is September 1st. It's also the primary, the Massachusetts state primary. So hope everybody gets out. If you haven't voted already by mail-in, please make sure you vote. And then we're ready for the town administrator's report. Ed, if you are.
Sure, and I just wanted to go back and confirm that appointment to the capital improvement committee should be 30th of 2023. And just to also, because Matt had brought it up, Margaret Larson did get reappointed and her term goes to 6/30/23.
2023? Okay, thank you.
Roger Ball.
I didn't look at anybody else's. They were all active.
Okay.
At this point. Yeah.
Okay.
So should we?
Margaret's and Charlie's were the 2 terms that ran, that expired at the end of this past fiscal year on June 30th.
So on our next
All right.
agenda, can we have those 2 people if they're interested for that position?
Wait, what?
We gotta find out if Margaret's interested in staying on. We know Charlie is, so we may have 2 people interested in one position again at next meeting.
I thought you said
No,
that
Margaret was reappointed.
Margaret was already
Oh,
reappointed.
I'm sorry. I thought you said her new term would be. Okay, my fault.
Okay. Okay, so Ed, you ready to do the report?
Janet for 3 years.
Sure. The annual town meeting was held at Labrie Field on Saturday, August 15th, and was attended by about 110 registered voters and came off pretty well without any incidents. It was completed in about an hour and 35 minutes. I would like to give a great big thank you to the planning team who put together with careful thought towards health and safety. The planning team consisted of John Martin, Lucy Dalton, Charlie Knicky, Ian Illingsworth, John Workman, Randall Kemp, Robert Floyd, Carl Keener, Jerry Swanson, and Tammy Walunas. Thank you all very much. Great job. Very well done.
And thank you to you, Ed, too.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. I just try to keep everybody focused. Articles which were held with the thought of having a fall special town meeting and having them included in that warrant were, and this is just as a reminder, the PEG access equipment town hall, the highway department 1-ton plow dump truck, even though it is the ballot question for this September 1st election, it still would have to and be voted on at a town meeting. CPA funding for 2 new pickleball courts in Conan Park, library security system, building department, the wide format scanner, and the police department 3 taser units, and town hall IT 6 replacement desktop PCs. And then I'd like to remind residents that the water commissioners put into place voluntary water restrictions, limit of all non-essential water use, and no outdoor automatic sprinkler use between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. 7 days a week. And please restrict outdoor water usage to no more than 2 days per week. We hope this will result in a reduction in water use. If not, they will have to consider implementation of mandatory restrictions. We thank you in advance for helping us conserve and protect our water supply. Aaron Osborne, school superintendent's last day of work will be this Friday, August 28th, and respective school committees are working to find an interim superintendent at this time. They are also expecting to open schools with a hybrid model, and they have a walkthrough at Norris Elementary School scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday morning. I am told the light fixture replacement project at Norris Elementary School is currently being done, and they are moving right along towards its completion, so that will be done before school does start again. Now that the work of the Open Space and Recreation Plan Update Committee is winding down, I'm bringing forward recommendations to the core team group to begin work on the municipal vulnerability planning process. The Conservation Commission has issued the certificate of compliance for the Glendale Road Reconstruction project. This closes out that project from the Conservation Commission standpoint, from the original notice of intent which was filed and their order of conditions which they put in place for that project. And just to let you know, we had our annual state elevator inspection here at Town Hall performed last week. Everything checked out, and we have our new one-year elevator inspection certificate, which has been posted in the elevator. And then upcoming select board meetings, September 8th and 22nd, and the annual town election and state primary is September 1st here in the town hall, and currently early voting is going on in the town clerk's office.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions, Red?
And that's all.
I have one question. You had mentioned about the MVP, that once the Open Space and Recreation Plan group is winding down, I think we have one more meeting. It's actually Thursday this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Anyway, now, was it Fuss and O'Neill got the, they are the ones that got the award for this particular MVP process. I thought they pretty much drove the don't they lead us in this, or is this another sort of groundswell from folks in town? How does that work?
No, they will lead us in this, but the process is very similar to the Open Space and Recreation Plan update PVPC led us on. So in this case, Fuss and O'Neill will lead us through it. The group, in my opinion, may have a lot of either the same individuals or representation from a lot of the same committees as what the Open Space and Recreation Plan update had.
Okay, so if some of the money from the that grant went to PVPC to finish up the open space plan, how much money is left, in the MVP grant? And so there's no project in mind for MVP yet, right?
No, basically this process will put together our planning posture, and then after we have done that and completed that, then the next steps after that is done is that you can apply for specific grants for specific projects.
Okay.
And
once we finish this, you'll be in touch with the folks.
I'd like to go up.
Pardon?
And my memory is that there's I believe there's $15,000 left for Fuss and O'Neill after the $7,000 for Fair Valley Planning.
Is there a time limit on it?
There There is, which I believe is June 30th, 2021.
Okay. So we're almost done with the open space recreation plan. So after that, you and folks from Fuss O'Neill will bring a group together and discuss what kind of project we can work on? Is that the process?
Well, we'll discuss the process of putting together the planning posture, which is, like I said, very similar to the recreation plan.
Okay. Right. All right, sounds good.
Quick question. How is the open space plan going to be publicized?
Well, once we had our final meeting, we will go to both the planning board and the Board of Selectmen. And we will also, at those times when it's in the draft form, we will put it out on the website and media for people to see.
Okie dokie. Any other questions for Ed on his report? Okay, then let's have the update on East Street Bridge. Chris already told us about the Concom sort of signing off on their piece. And I know, Ed, you had a conversation with VHB, Mr. Furman, and there's no changes, right?
No, we've accepted the Concom order of conditions. There were some concerns because in those order of conditions that they have left off that there's no riprap or geotechnical material to be used, and there are some concerns because that condition that it is maybe possible for erosion to exist or come about 2 or 3 years down the road would be a maintenance issue, maintenance costs for a highway department. It would also mean that we would have to do an inspection every year under that bridge to check for erosion and the natural growth of materials. So that did come out. VHB did together and talk about that, and Randall Kemp and I had a meeting with John Furman from VHB via phone last week, and VHB looked at it further. They feel at this time that it's in our best interest to just go forward and accept that order condition, not to think about appealing it. With those concerns for the future maintenance, they said that they would get a better understanding of the actual, I won't say riverbed, but the area above the riverbed and the type of sand or soil that is there once construction starts. And it may be possible, depending on what the actual soil condition is under the existing riprap, that perhaps that soil condition will be conducive to what the order of conditions CONCOM has come up with. But if they find that it might be different and that there might be some risk to the or probability of erosion occurring in the future, that at that point in time they would be able to actually go back to the Conservation Commission and ask them to take a look at a change to the order of conditions because of what they found during the construction cycle. That being said, the very next step is VHB is filing for a Waterways license for the bridge. There is not an existing one, so rather than having to have an existing one updated, we have to apply for new Waterways license for the DEP. That's probably going to take about 3 to 4 months. So we're probably looking at work through that and then being out to bid around the 1st of next year.
What is the Waterways license in? What is that all about?
The Waterways license comes from the DEP, and basically any basic structures like the bridge are required to have one. Like I say, when they looked at the records, there is not an existing one for this particular bridge. So we have to apply for a new license versus applying for an amendment to an existing license.
Wow. And VHB just figured that out now?
They had said something to us before this, but they can't apply for the Waterway license until we actually have the order of conditions from the Conservation Commission.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about having a hearing or some type of select board meeting where we publicize an update and possibly have John Furman come and speak to it. Is that something that the committee still wants to do?
I would like to see that happen.
Me too. You still see a lot of it on the Southampton page, so I think that's what started the request to address all those concerns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially if we have another delay now. I mean, I was not realizing that this was going to take up months to get another license before we could even put it out to bid. But I think we need to also try and include something about East Street itself, not just the bridge.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I think we're still on the list for the funding for the roadway. But Ed, would you be willing to reach out to John and confirm a date? I mean, we have a couple of dates for meetings in September. Maybe
yeah,
then we...
and John said he would be willing to come out and speak about the bridge and the process and where we're at. And the East Street roadway itself is a separate issue. So, but John is willing to come out and speak about the bridge.
So is there some way we could, at the same time, have someone speak about East Street itself?
Well, either Randall or I could do that.
Yeah, that would be, I think the package would be good.
Do you want to plan that for this 22nd of September, if John's available? And it would be nice to hear from Randall. I mean, he's pretty up on all the details of the road. I mean, I don't know how much we can say because, you know, we are on the list for the funding for that, but I'm not sure what's been done. But it's, I think people want to know. I mean, the road's a mess.
And since we're having sorry.
What's that?
Since we're having department heads in and Randall's maybe coming on the 28th, can we have him do his update then also?
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, and I believe that he's grouped with in public safety with police and fire, so I can make that happen.
For like the 22nd, because we want to make sure that we advertise it, and then we can discuss if we want to make it like as a hearing. Is that sound okay? Yeah, okay. Any other questions about the East Street Bridge or road?
Can I ask a general question? Are you folks have a hard time hearing this? I've got my volume up max and it's not high at all. Do you have a master volume control head for the Zoom meeting?
I don't have a problem hearing at all.
You don't?
Okay. No.
So must be my PC. Okay, never mind. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sometimes, what I can say is sometimes Ed breaks up. I can hear everyone else fine, but Ed is the only one who breaks up.
Yeah, I agree, Francine. Okay, let's talk about 93 College Highway and the purchase and sale agreement. And I do believe Fletcher's are on. Yes.
Yes, they are.
Now, there was a document that was sent out today, I believe. I'll have to defer to others to, I can't read it that's quickly, but you want to talk to that, Ed?
Sure, I'm happy to. And I had put this on the agenda just in case that the Fletchers or their attorney had sent any comments back on the purchase and sale that agreement that we had. So over the weekend, Penny had sent an email to Attorney Klein that says some changes to the purchase and sale, and the requests are grantee should have or nominee after the buyer's names. The deed shall be to an LLC or realty trust under the control and benefit of the grantees to be determined soon. Buyers do not agree to the provision in paragraph 2, allowing seller to reserve the rights to drain over and across the premises, etc. Please advise that what the seller is trying to accomplish here, at the very least, provision is way too broad, but the buyers are not inclined to agree to any allowance for drainage, which was not disclosed in the bid process. 3C, the reference here is correct. However, I believe the easement trying to be referred to has been extinguished by the merger. And actually, the preceding request about the drainage and reference to the easement is the drainage easement. And Attorney Klein explained to me that once the town actually acquired this property, that drainage easement was merged into town property and really became non-existent. So we were pretty clear in the RFP package that we would require the buyer to accept that drainage easement that was recorded. Now it has merged. So what Attorney Klein suggested is that I meet with Glendale Camper Highway Superintendent and ask him what the town really would require for a drainage easement there, was what was originally on record sufficient and adequate enough, or would we really require something more or something less? But that's what the provision was. We will need to reestablish that drainage easement because it is important to us if we are to sell the property. The next thing is we can plan for a closing on September 29th. The next request was the buyer does not agree to the default paragraph, which gives the seller the right to default or breach the agreement. The buyers have spent a lot of time and energy moving forward with this transaction and do not want to have appended at seller's discretion. I will say that the town has expended a good deal of time and energy moving forward to actually put this out to bid. That particular language is KP standard language in this particular case. I'd recommend keeping it in, but I can talk to Attorney Klein further about that. Then there are some title to be addressed prior to closing. There is a right of first refusal which needs to be released. See book 1872, page 192. There's a chapter 61A lien on the property which should be released. Book 2156, page 263. The current deed omits 2 courses from its running description, the 12 and 13 courses. And then the grantor of the current deed was part of a bankruptcy proceeding. Case has not been closed of record, and we need proof it's been closed. So I can check with the assessor on and see if there is a first refusal that needs to be released, which the select board could do. I can check on the 61A lien on the property, and if that can be released by the town. Some of the other requests, as far as the current deed omits two courses, or the grantor of the current deed was part of a bankruptcy proceeding. We need proof it was closed. There is a clause, which was section 10 in the purchase and sale agreement, which basically says that the town, being the select board, may or may not agree to any of those things, but it also put a limit on if the select board did agree to look or try to resolve any of those issues, that it should not be more than $500. Some of these items here of cleaning up the title could be thousands of dollars, and I would recommend that the board not agree to those particular items, and that would be up to the purchaser to clear those titles.
Okay.
Do you have any idea of the cost of all of that, Ed?
What's that?
Do you have any idea? I know you said thousands. Are we over 10 or under 10?
They just said thousands. It would probably be under 10, but like I say, we're right in the purchase and sale. We had put in there that any costs associated that we would incur would be over $500. And the idea was to take this property and to make it available and try to make it available and put it back into a useful life without us to either the town for going through this process.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a couple questions? If there's a drainage easement that exists right now, is there anything in the purchase and sale that extends that or makes it any different from what we already know?
No, like I said, but it did end up getting merged into the property once the town acquired it. We've still got the information on where it was, the measurements on it and what have you. The purchase and sale did have the clause in it, and the RFP had the clause in it that we wanted that maintained and the right to it. And so like I say, all along the intent was that was going to be part of the requirements for anyone that wanted to purchase this property. The town wanted that maintained and that right maintained.
Yeah, that was my understanding also. And another question is, if we own the land now, why does the right of first refusal even come into play? I mean, we're the owners of the land. We don't the right of first refusal.
Yeah, that's confused me a little bit too, and I'm not sure if it's because of the agricultural the two agricultural pieces that are on it or not. So I'm going to have to look into that a little further.
Okay.
But like I say, if it really doesn't.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was reading the document. Can you unmute Cheryl, please?
Sure.
Hi.
Hi, Cheryl.
So if we can just back up to the paragraph 2 on the drainage, we've known all along about the drainage easement, but Attorney Klein came back and said when the town bought the property, it's called extinguished by merger. So that easement went away when the town bought the property in 2000 or 2000, whenever it was that it happened. So the wording just has to be changed. You can't reference an easement that doesn't exist anymore. So, or somehow there has to be some sort of agreement. I mean, we know that there's got to be some sort of drainage easement, but in paragraph 2, you must admit that it's not, I mean, there's no limit to the amount of water. The way it's worded, it's saying you will agree to any amount of water that comes onto that property. And the wording of that is such that I don't know that anybody would agree to that because there's no limitations. It doesn't say in accordance with, it just says It's very, very broad, and it says, sorry, I can't find it right here, right now, but it's just talking about seller shall reserve rights and deed to buyer to drain on, over, and across the premises in such locations and on terms and conditions as the seller determines in its sole and absolute discretion. So that's saying you guys can, or whoever's on the town board can allow, you know, any amount of water to go over that property. And why would we allow that? That's why she's saying, what's the intent? And so if the intent was to keep the drainage easement in place, there's no drainage, according to the law, there's no drainage easement in place anymore. So that's just, you know, that's just wording. I mean, when the town bought it, that easement went away. So, and I will tell you that, no disrespect to Mr. Gibson, but I appreciate all the work that you folks have done. But when you look back, the first letter that we sent to the selectmen was 4 years ago. And so all of you know how much time and effort has been put forward to us moving this along so that we could do something. And so we're finally at a position where there is financial capability to fix this erosion problem, but we can't buy it without clear title. I mean, whether it's a cash transaction or not, I don't think anybody would buy, I'm certainly not going to buy a piece of property if I can't have clear title to it. And there are some problems on here with the title. So although I appreciate that, you know, some legals will be paid, I think that, you know, Bob and I made a good faith offer that far exceeded what many of you thought was coming in, so that we felt that if there was title problems or legal issues, that there was money available to put towards it. So, so to come right out in front and say, well, you know, we're not going to fix these things and it's going to be on us, we will walk away from it. But along with that goes, you know, NRCS engineers were on the property today, and that the funding is sitting there. We got the official letter today, and so all of that goes away, and that money is not to be used for legal fees. I can't buy this property if I don't have clear title to it. So.
Well, I think the other thing that happens, Cheryl, is, you know, we haven't been around for 40 years, and every step of the way, we're just trying to do due diligence. You know, we're trying to make sure that we don't put the town in any kind of jeopardy, legally or otherwise. You know, every step around the way, like, this is information that has not, like, did I know that when the land was transferred to the town, that the drainage easement sort of went away, and now we have to, like, we have to establish some measure of drainage easement, whether it gets reestablished as it was or not. You know, like, every step of the way, like, this is new information to us. With all the discussion that's had with this, did I know that that happened when the town bought the land? No. What exactly are the title things that have to go? I mean, I asked the question about why is there even a Chapter 61, you know, issue if the town already owns it? Why is there a right of first refusal if we're basically, you know, like, it's the opposite. The town is selling it to somebody. So,
well, the right of first refusal again goes back to when the town bought the land. So when the town bought the land, due diligence wasn't completed back then, and whether it was Copeland and Page or, you know, I know Attorney Etheridge in Northampton was very involved in it. There was a right of first refusal on the property because it was on the farm too, and it caused us problems when we bought the farm. And so many of those folks are not alive, and so it may take some homework on the part of Copeland and Page to find out how to extinguish that right of first refusal. So it went from the Fowles family to another family member on that 8 acres separate. And then it went to, it passed along to 2 citizens. And when we bought the farm, we had to get this right of first refusal on the farm extinguished. And now there's problems because, many of these folks that are listed on the deed are not here. And so it will take a little bit of research from the attorney on how to resolve that. Some of these are the deed, the deed, there's a reference that's just wrong. The 61A, I don't know why 61A is on there. The deed is wrong. And as far as the bankruptcy court hearings, I think that's a petition to the bankruptcy court. And again, the bankruptcy attorney is also not alive, but that to me is a letter saying, yeah, the bankruptcy, or unless Board of Health has it somewhere and it just wasn't filed. But,
Yeah.
But
So there's cleanup that has to happen from the past that either wasn't done or needs to be clarified. And, at this point, I don't know what role we would necessarily have to play, except that we are doing the best we can to address all these issues as they come up. And at this point, we need to make sure that the paperwork, whether it's the Board of Health or it's, title search, whatever. I mean, I think that we have to at least start to, address some of these issues. But, you have to understand that we're, none of us were here at the beginning. We're doing the best we can, and we can't just say, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Let's just move this along. Like, we understand that you have people walking the property and that, you have deadlines and funding, but we also, have to, where we're at with our budget right now. I mean, we just had this terrible town meeting and everybody's department was cut. I mean, we have to do due diligence with all of these items.
Right, but have you even, Mr. Gibson doesn't even sound like he's asked Copeland and Page to say, could you give me a realistic expectation of what it will take to correct some of these issues? I mean, you're saying thousands of dollars, but you don't even know that. That's not what Mary Penny is indicating to me. So,
This
we
letter
keep spending.
August 22nd. Today's August 25th.
Sorry?
Like, this email from Mary Penny came in August 22nd, Saturday. Today is Tuesday, August 25th.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how quickly we're expected to respond to each of these items on the checklist here.
But what I'm saying is that we can't sign a purchase and sale until we know that at least that we will have clear title. I mean, we can't do it. And so from what Mr. Gibson is talking about, especially in terms of the default clause, Melnick's law office is saying, that is not a usual thing. That's saying that, it's exactly, you folks could decide tonight, you know what, we don't want to spend the legal fees on it, and it's a done deal. And how is that? And I look at it.
I'm not comfortable being pressured into this. I mean, this is for lawyers to deal with. Why are we doing this on the select?
Right. I'm not saying that, Matt, but I'm just saying.
I don't know what you're saying, but like, the lawyers need to work this out. This is not up for the select board to decide. And unfortunately, we have to spend an insane amount of money to deal with this now, which is my biggest concern to begin with.
But you don't know.
I'm sorry to come at you, but like, this is my biggest concern at the start of all of this.
But what I'm saying is you don't know if it's an insane amount of money.
Well,
I don't know. We just spent about a half an hour. It seems like it's going to be pretty long list. And they charge every 6 minutes. So I don't know.
Okay. This letter literally just came in from the attorney, Melnick's office on Saturday, and today is Tuesday. So there's nothing that any of us can do. I think that we are working very, very hard to try to make this happen. We also are under a tremendous amount of budget woes here. So I think that I agree with Matt. I think that the lawyers now have to, discuss and give us guidance around what is involved in each of these steps to make this purchase and sale valid. Right. I mean, if these issues have to get worked out, how many of them are easy, low-hanging fruit, easy to fix? If things weren't done in the past, the Board of Health can just send a letter saying it was already, the bankruptcy proceedings are, it's already closed. Let's just get a letter from there. I think we need to let the attorneys kind of go back and forth. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here. We're just all doing the best we can to move this as fast as possible. And I think we all want this to go, the purchase and sale and the closing to happen as soon as possible.
Well, I appreciate that. It just sounded like initially the introduction to this was that, that you would not entertain some of these things that need to happen, whether they were low-lying fruit or not. I understand.
Yeah, people need to find out what are each of these things going to involve. I mean, I have questions about them, but I'm not a lawyer. I mean, to me, some of it is just getting a letter and saying it's done, taken care of, and that paperwork, wasn't part of the agreement. It sounds like one of the descriptions of the property. That seems like it's a pretty easy thing. If it was just a course of, reference that wasn't there, then that seems to be something that's easy enough. I think we'll put it on the agenda for next time, and we'll ask our attorneys to give us some guidance around where do we get this information, how much time will it involve, how much money will it involve.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. I just don't want it to be, after all the work, to say, oh, it's going to take some time and have it all be dismissed. That's all.
No, none of us want that to happen. But we can't just ignore what, the request here. We have to figure out where we go for this direction and how long is it going to
like, not to be rude, like if we're talking about, if the drainage easement went away, like the drainage easement needs to go back on. Water drains down there. Like if we don't put the drainage easement back on, you could just as easily come back being like, well, there's no drainage easement there. You can't drain there. So the town's got to completely fix
Right, no, that's
the
what
water
I'm
problems
saying.
there. And I'm sorry, like, this is not like in the good faith nature of what we're trying to accomplish here. Like,
Matt, I didn't say that, but if you read paragraph 2, there is no limitation to the amount of drainage on there. So that's why the attorney is saying, what is the intent? So if the intent is in accordance with what the drainage easement was on that property, that makes sense. But the wording in paragraph 2 says the town has the right to drain whenever and how much with no limitations. And so it's very, very broad. That's all. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know before tonight that when the merger and the sale happened, that the easement went away. I mean, every step of the way, we're crossing, new things that either have to be clarified or, found out about and kind of fixed. And that's, this is just another, document in that direction. So we need to kind of work on each of these areas, and some of them will be easy, and the ones that involve a lot of time and money, we need to find out about.
Mm-hmm.
So what's right now, KP Law has a copy of this email then from, I don't see them on the thing. It just went to Cheryl Ed. Okay, Katie Klein. Yep. So we haven't heard back, or have we, from Katie?
I had talked to her today. So, our next steps are really need to know if the select board is willing to spend any money at all to resolve some of these issues, and or none. And if you are willing to spend some funds, do you have a cap on those funds?
Okay, can we get an idea of what in order to address all the issues there? I'm assuming some of them will be within our own department. We don't need KP Law to, if they say, go to the Board of Health and get a letter saying that, that the bankruptcy proceedings, that, it's case closed, that shouldn't cost us money. So I need to know basically what, when it says a few title things, that's so vague. How am I supposed to know what that's going to cost? Are they able to give us a quote or a range of what they anticipate this would end up costing?
Well, she had said thousands today. So I can ask her if she's got a better, narrower estimate of what that will be.
I'd like to have each of these paragraphs have her be able to say, this is how we get this information, this is where we get this information. And then what, if anything, is an anticipated charge for that. I'm sure she could be able to, they do this sort of thing all the time. And then maybe by next time we'll be able to make those decisions. I'm assuming some of these things are simply going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's releasing a lien.
Some are definitely easier, but like I say, when you start running into some title issues, that can be open-ended.
Yeah. I think we just need to know, we do have a budget for attorney. It's hard for us to make that decision without even knowing. Thousands, is not really very specific for me. Is that possible to ask them to give us more detail on each of these things that have to be addressed? I mean, we haven't even heard from our attorney. We're just reading a document from their attorney.
Well, we waited 10 days to get the purchase and sale. And so only when I reached out, I mean, she had the purchase and sale for 2 days and then was going on vacation and drafted this. So we didn't get the purchase and sale right immediately after when you folks had it. I reached out to Mr. Gibson to get the purchase and sale because Mary was looking for it. So that's why I'm concerned about the time. I don't want to lose 10 days looking for another document or 2 weeks for Mary to say, does KP Law reach out to Mary and say, okay, divide and conquer, let's figure out how we can do this. And, who's going to, some of this is easy and some of it is not so easy. So. Okay.
And can you get us a little bit more detail on each of these things? What will involve? How much money would it cost? And actually hear from our own attorney. Cheryl, to be honest, we've had a town meeting in the last 10 days. Like, we've had other items on our agenda and our list. And I know you have a deadline, and I know it's been 4 years, but we also have to make good decisions with the information we have.
Right, but if you folks were going to lose $25,000 to correct a problem in town, you would do everything. And I don't mean it as a threat. And I know it's going to sound like that, but if you had 25,000 that was sitting there that someone was saying, if you're not going to be able to put a closing date on it, we've got to give it to another environmental project. I know you folks would, in good faith, try to do everything you could to put some pressure on to get things resolved so that you didn't lose that funding. And that was that grant has been worked on for the last year in anticipation that we could correct this drainage problem.
Right.
So I just don't want to lose.
We have had our hands full, at the town meeting alone. I mean, putting articles together, putting a new budget together. So I get that it's a very important thing for you and for deadlines, but we're going to do the best we can, and we're going to wait to hear back from our attorney. And by the next meeting, hopefully we can get some details about how quick can we resolve this, where do we go to resolve them, how much money is it going to cost to resolve them. So why don't we plan on doing that? If we can hear back from our own attorney, because this letter is only dated Saturday. So if anybody else have any questions about this that you want to talk about?
What's the deadline for you, Cheryl?
The 25th.
Of September.
Yeah.
Well, the closing is saying here 29th.
Correct, but they need to know, I'm supposed to reach out to them tomorrow morning at the state to let them know whether what the plan is to address some of these things, to try to get some of this squared away. So, and I know it's not the current board's fault, but, so the town doesn't even have good title to this property. That's what I'm saying. You can't you can't sell the land to us or to anybody because you folks don't have good title to the land. So when the town bought it, they weren't done then. So.
Okay. Any other questions, either for Ed or Cheryl? Okay. Hopefully we can get that information for the next meeting. Okay, you want it ready to move on to Green Communities Grant? I put this on there because it was a standing item at the bottom, and I just wanted to know if anything was happening. I know it involves a lot of work to try to prove energy savings. There was some movement on that with the lighting at Norris School. Are there any updates on what needs to happen next, Ed?
Yeah, I've actually got a teleconference meeting with Mark Rabinski, who is the district coordinator, the Western Mass district coordinator for Green Communities on Monday. Mark's gonna pull what was our initial application that the town put in to look at the the projects that were listed at that time and what was in there for energy savings, to give me some ideas of how we can best move forward with projects that DOER will approve. And I've also Kyle Hauser from Advanced Energy, who's coming in. He's still got to pick up his paperwork on the signed paperwork on the Norris Elementary School from us, at least the original with the wet signatures. And we're going to go through this building again to see what he can actually do for us of putting together a project in the proposed energy savings, if it's just the lighting, or if he can also get into some of the items that we were looking to do, like the attic insulation and also HVAC controls here.
Okay, so we had an extension on this, and I'm thinking it goes until June 30th, 2021. Is that right? Or is it the end of this year? Remember, Ed?
Well, we will have $138,000 that we've got in grants, but
Breaking up. Oh.
that would be a good
Ed, we're having a hard time hearing you. You're breaking up.
budget dollars.
All I
Yeah,
heard was,
Rini, you froze up for a minute.
okay,
We didn't hear anything that Ed just said.
me neither. Ed, what is the deadline now, the new deadline on this proving of energy savings? I know it's $130-something thousand that we have potentially coming to us. What is the deadline that was extended to? Well, that's not good.
No.
Everybody else can hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Is it just
Yeah,
Ed that's,
Breaking up.
yeah, Ed, everybody can hear each other except nobody can hear you. Is there some place you can
Okay,
go
well,
where
you were freezing up.
Okay,
I mean, I will say this, if nobody's been paying attention, Zoom's been having some pretty big issues these last few days.
right. So Ed,
Yeah,
what
we got bounced out of the meeting yesterday morning.
yeah, right. What I was looking for, Ed, was what is the extension deadline on the Green Communities Grant now?
For our reporting, it's June 30th of 2021. As far as expending our 138,000, it can go forever.
Okay, all right, so that's money in the bank, we don't want to lose it. And I know it's
Right.
a lot of effort to, prove this energy savings, but, so if you can just report to us how your, conference goes with them, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
All righty. Next, we have Easthampton Media, and I saw that Jen is on the call, and also I saw an email come through from Jen. You want to tell us what's
Yes,
the latest?
yeah, they're all set to go. They were all set to go if we had left the article on the annual town meeting for the purchase of the equipment, PEG equipment for town hall. So they are ready to go. That's one of the items that we had pulled off just to make the annual town meeting shorter. So that article's ready to go when we have a special fall town meeting and move those other pieces forward.
Okay, I believe there were some potential dates. I'm in the spirit of like making people aware that we didn't forget about their request. I think there was a effort. I wonder if I could hear from Robert, if he's still on the call. I think there was a discussion about whether we should, have a target date in mind.
Robert Floyd, 166 College Highway. I do have a date in mind, and it is October 17th, Saturday, with the backup for October 24th. We have a narrow window of opportunity to have an outdoor meeting again that's comfortable before November cold comes in and its weather. The quorum for 50 was waived by Boston. It won't be waived for a special town meeting, it looks like so far.
Okay. Okay, so that was one of the articles. There were quite a few other articles that were passed on. Does the committee want to tentatively address again the possibility of having either an indoor or outdoor meeting in October?
I'd like to see us do an outdoor meeting if we possibly can. I mean, I think the logistics went really well last time, and you know, we know what we need to do to put on another one. If we can possibly do it with weather permitting in October, that would be great.
One question is, we did the annual town meeting with CARES money, the special town meeting, because it was fairly expensive to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Do we have the money to do that outdoors again? And do you have a bottom line roughly what it cost us?
Probably about $2,000 in total between the sound company, the rental of the chairs and tables, and the porta potties.
2,000.
So, Robert, what you're saying is if we have it indoors, we're capped at 50?
If we have it indoors or outdoors, our quorum will be 50.
Oh, our quorum, okay.
Quorum, yeah. And we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. The numbers are rising in Massachusetts. If it goes up, if it kicks back, maybe we couldn't meet indoors, even though the governor's meeting rule doesn't apply. Town meeting doesn't come under the umbrella, but people may not want to go into Norris, even 6 feet apart. And we may be looking at January if it gets better. So my thought is we can get in under the radar, so to speak, and plan for October, Saturday, October 17th. And when we get close to it, if we see we'll simply pull the plug.
Yeah. What kind of firmer numbers are we going to have from the state in terms of any state aid or?
Yeah, is there a chance we don't even need this?
Or free cash? I mean, last time we didn't know this until later on in the year, right?
Right.
I'm just so curious, like we kind of have this, I mean, as long as they approve the numbers that they said that they were going to go with, then why would we even need to do this?
There was some articles that never got to the town meeting floor, so that would be one reason. I don't know how important it is to do it in October versus January.
I mean, adjusting the budget we would have to do, but if the numbers come in even and there's no adjustment needed there, I'm not necessarily sure that any of the articles that we postponed are going to push us to do this.
Well, I think I'm concerned about the library security system. I think there are a number of things, the town hall, computers, we made random decisions based on what we thought were time saving with the promise that we were going to meet and get these done in a timely way, not keep kicking the can down the road for some of these items.
That's a good point.
Well, plus the PEG programming, right? I mean, they're ready to get the equipment bought and installed, and then, why would we want to wait on that any longer?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the computer equipment for town hall. Hasn't that been approved already, Ed? And you're getting quotes?
That was last year. There's another round of it.
Yeah, these are additional ones.
Right, but we haven't gotten the equipment from last year's round, have we?
No, we're just about to get that, though. I mean, there's some articles that, yeah, you probably may not want to move forward with, but there may be articles that are in that listing that you do want to move in October.
Why are we talking about the number of articles at this point in time. Why don't we try to do what we have to do? I think the meeting went exceptionally well. It was very efficient. These 6 or 7 things that we have, I think we can accomplish in a reasonable period of time.
Just for the record, Jen Ramsey is not available tonight. So even though it says Easthampton Media, that's one of the videographers for the live feed. If the state changes the cash flow, we'd be ready if we had that date. Something may come up, but the idea is that we could plan for it, and then you have the right, a little over 14 weeks, which would 14 days, which would be September 29th, to say no, we're not going to have it, or yes, we are. We're approving the warrant, and we'll have it posted tomorrow or October 1st. And incidentally, all the feedback I've received about the meeting, kudos to certainly the deputy moderator and the town clerk, Lucy, and working behind the scenes and helping me. But the select board vetted these articles over and over and over again. And many people were satisfied. They didn't disagree, and they stayed home, compared to other years where there's been a compressed amount of time for vetting the articles. So kudos to the select board, the executive branch of Southampton's government, for vetting the articles as you did.
Well, thank you, Robert. I think, so our 5-hour meetings have paid off. Is that what you're saying? Okay, so how do people feel about setting something up? You want to just think about it and bring it back up again? Maybe get a little bit more information in terms of like how many articles we're talking about? What kind of certainty, if any, are we going to be anything different going to happen in terms of anything relative to the state? Or are people prepared right now to make a commitment to a plan?
I would say set it up.
Okay. Okay. So I think the dates you had in mind were the October, what did you say, 14th?
17th.
17th to the 24th.
17th, which is the Saturday after the holiday. Okay. I think why don't we work towards that, okay? Anybody else?
We do it on Halloween.
Good.
Yeah, we'll dress up.
Okay, that'll make it fun.
Come on.
All right.
Oh, Halloween is on a
Saturday.
Yeah.
31st.
Another thing that'll be unfortunately impacted by COVID. Anything else?
Can I add something? This in from Lucy Dalton. Sorry, it's here somewhere. Okay. Lucy sent an info to me. Please remember that early voting begins on October 17th to the 30th for the November election.
All right, thank you. Anything else? So this originated out of the discussion about the Easthampton media, which was one of the articles that was delayed. So hopefully that'll be one of the ones that will end up on the next special town meeting. Next item on the agenda is the TIF agreement. We had talked about this back, I think, in June. J&E Precision is having I think a $20,000 tax break, and there were agreements in the TIF agreement that by July of 2020 there would be a report to the select board. So I'm wondering if that report is available.
It is not. My contact had some surgery in July, so I didn't bother him in July, and I followed up. He had actually thought that report had already been sent out to us in July, but I spoke to him last week, and I expect to get it probably either tomorrow or Thursday. And as soon as I get it, I'll send it out to you.
Okay, can we include that on the agenda for next time also?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can we just back up a little bit? Did we approve Janet Kane's appointment, including the term to expire 2023? I know John made the motion and Chris seconded it, but was that the agreement?
I think we were waiting on the term, but that's my
Okay.
recollection.
I think we voted because we said that Francine abstained.
Okay.
We voted that Ed would wait to check on the term, but yeah.
Okay, we'll just make
Yes.
sure then that the motion and second includes the fact that the term expires 2023.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so you ready to move on to new business? The first is the approval of the amended annual town election warrant. That was already done and signed by 3 people, right?
Yes, it's been posted, but it still needs to be approved at this meeting.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion then to approve the amended annual town election warrant?
So moved.
Motion.
Okay, that was Francine, and then John, you want a second, or?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, Francine and John, any discussion? All in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Roland,
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. And thank you to the people that end up signing it, and thank you, Ed, for running around and getting the signatures. The next is the disclosure of non-elected municipal employee of financial interests. This is Allison Radon, and there's paperwork. She is an MTA member, and she's appointed to the North School Committee. She will be abstaining for anything that would be a conflict. So I think the paperwork is there for that.
Yes, it is. And in this particular case, she was advised to fill out the paperwork, and she is one, although the Norris School Committee is usually an elected position, she is filling in a vacancy that the select board appointed her to till this next election. So the select board is, in this case, her appointing authority. Really, there is no financial interest for her or her family. She's just stating the facts that, she does teach in another community. She is a member of the MTA, and the MTA also represents the teachers here in Southampton, so that she may be sitting on the management side of the table for the school committee, and she is a member of the MTA, which may be sitting on the other side. So, but in this particular case, she is not negotiating for her own or any of her family wages. So really, there's no direct financial interest in this case.
So we have to vote on this and approve it, or what?
Correct. And then Maureen would have to sign it as the chair.
I have a question. So the election is September 1st, which is next week. Does this only go until next week? And then I don't remember anybody's name on the ballot.
She's on the ballot.
She's on the ballot.
She's on the ballot. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, and then at that point, when she is officially an elected member of the school committee, she really should be checking with the ethics committee and getting a ruling from them, and then filing with the town clerk.
Okay. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion then to approve this?
I'll make a motion, we approve the disclosure of Allison Radon.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, John and then Chris. Any more discussion? Yeah, John and then Chris. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Roland,
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. All right, we already talked about the committee to seek grants. We talked about the annual town meeting follow-up update. Is there anything more that anyone would like to say about that?
No, I think we've covered it all.
Okay, great job, everyone. Annual town election, is there any update on the annual town election?
It's September 1st. He's going to be here in the town hall. For those that haven't voted early or voted by mail, for anyone that's interested in voting early goes through this Friday here in the town clerk's office, and the office hours are 8:30 to 4.
Are you going to mention about the fact that the new ballot is coming out?
Yeah. I haven't received a ballot yet even. Old or new.
They're stuffing them and they got mailed out this afternoon.
Right. But I
Yes, that's
think
correct.
people who already voted need to understand
Yeah.
that they have to complete a new ballot.
Correct.
And I don't know if there was an insert put in this ballot or not, but that would be a good question.
Yeah, I haven't seen the ballot, so I don't know if there's an insert or not at this point, but.
I can tell you what, give me a second, I'll go check, because my wife was helping him stuff them, so hold on.
Good.
You hear that, Claire? She wasn't sure, but I just got a text from Lucy Dalton, says that there was no insert.
Just automatically sent.
But she says there's a message that has gone out. I don't want to read text, but I thought that was important. It comes from Lucy.
Yeah.
Yeah, code red message was sent out last night, and there is also a posting on the town website.
Anything else on the election?
Oh, and I should probably add, just for people's information, that don't want to mail them back, that there is a black colored ballot drop-off box outside that's been installed at the bottom of the stairs, so that they can come here to town hall and actually put it in that drop box.
Just don't confuse it with the survey box, right, Chris?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it says ballot box.
Yeah, it says town clerk ballot box.
It's like a new way of doing business. Any other comments about the election? We do have at least one other necessary business that can't wait, and that is the appointing of the PCFs for the election workers. The registrars did appoint these folks, and so the select board needs to approve the PCFs. So I believe you have a copy of that in the packet, or a separate.
And I'll say there's two different categories. There is the one for Sabina McCarthy, who has already been approved through the PPB and needs the select board approval. And then there are two other ones, one for Jennifer Jazikowski and one for Patrice Crevier, who has not been approved by PPB yet. They will be meeting on Thursday night for these. So for those two, I would suggest the select board, if you're going to approve them conditionally that the PPB also approves them.
And this is only for the September 1 election, is that right? Or
no, these are being appointed as election workers, not just for the September 1st election.
Okay, I thought I saw something highlighted in yellow about a 2-week appointment or something.
Yes, because of the fact that on an emergency appointment, it can go into effect automatically, once the PPB is signed off on it, I suggested Lucy do that just to make sure that they were in place for the September 1st election. Those also have regular PCFs with them too, for a regular,
I see.
what would be a part-time non-benefit position.
Okay. And so these are the only 3 election workers we have then, or did we appoint others earlier? I forget.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
No, the registers have appointed others, but anybody that is a reappointment, PCFs would have already been done for them.
Okay.
In these cases, these are new election workers, so they have not previously filed or had filed PCFs on them. And you may remember that within the last year, we got the ruling. The election workers used to be paid on a vendor payable warrant as a 1099, and the IRS said that they really needed to be paid on a W-2. So that necessitated moving it from an expense account to an actual payroll account.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the PCFs for the election workers.
A couple of them should be pending approval by PQB
Right, pending, yes.
for the last 2.
Right. So
Crevier was a pending, and the one before her,
Jazakowski.
Azakowski.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Francine and then John. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. Any other necessary business that can't wait until the next regular September 8th select board meeting?
Just reading.
Do the one for Sabrina McCarthy,
Pardon me?
which is already approved by PPPB.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Still need to have a motion and a second and a vote on the one for Sabina McCarthy, who has already been approved by PPPB. So it's just a regular.
Yeah, I think we're including all of them, but with the last 2 being pending approval by PQB. Do you want them to be separate for?
No, we could do it that way.
Okay. All right, we have some signatures, personnel change form, Richard Aldrich, Fire EMS Department, part-time, Fire EMS non-benefited. Everybody have a copy of that?
Yeah, I have a question on that.
Okay.
The name up top is correct, I believe, Richard Aldrich, but when you get down to the comments about the middle of the page, the reason for change, it says Miss Ryan had moved to the Midwest and has no plan to return to this area in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, my thought was that was why the position's available, but that's not a good way to reflect it. Is that true? Your understanding, Ed?
That was my thought on that particular one. Yes, that she had resigned and wasn't available anymore, and then this one was replacing her.
Okay, that wasn't clear.
Yeah, no, that wasn't clear at all. It just seemed bizarre that it was just someone's name in the middle of it. Was there
Well,
did you have a PCF?
it's
What?
I was just wondering if we had a PCF for her resignation.
Well, I'm also wondering if this is a templated thing that was left on there too, which could be the other piece.
Okay, well, it
I
makes
will
sense
have to find out from John if it's
Okay,
a
right.
templated old one or if
Right.
we should have a PCF for her resignation.
Well, how about if we just remove it? Or we approve it with, it doesn't need to be there for whatever reason it's there. It doesn't serve any purpose to approve this PCF, right?
Yeah, everyone else approved it, looks like.
Yeah. Would you like to make
Yeah,
a
you
motion?
just-
someone? Would someone like to make a motion?
Okay, I'll move that we approve it pending clarification of that other information about Ms. Ryan. Either it belongs there or it doesn't. And since everyone else has already gone through the process of approving it, I don't want to hold it up any further.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles on.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Groden, aye. We have a one-day beer and wine license for Conan Park.
Yep.
And everything is in order for this, and since I sent it out, I did, it wasn't checked at the time, but I checked with Chief Illingsworth, and the chief is okay with the issuance of the one-day permit.
Okay.
And the number of people?
Yeah, it's 50. I think that's,
Yeah.
50 is the max.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that number went down to 25. No?
No, not outside.
Okay.
From 100 to 50.
Okay. Do we have a motion yet?
I move that we approve the one-day permit.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye.
Hey, Rainey, before you get going, can I drag you back to other business?
Yeah.
I had something, just an update. Under old business, we have 2 department heads with contracts that we need to be negotiating with. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the things I had asked Ed, if we could actually bring Vicky into the next meeting.
Yeah,
Is that
I've got, yeah, for the first meeting in September.
Is that what you mean, John?
Yeah, but we're supposed to get a self-evaluation before then and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. The only question I had about that, John, is, I mean, last time we met with John Workman twice, it got quite late. It really needs to be executive session. Do we, keep to a particular time? Do we go into executive session? Do we just continue to do it at the end of the meeting? I just didn't know what the committee wanted to do, but I did ask Ed already, because her contract was technically up on the 30th, and even though there might not, I don't know what, what position we're in, but we definitely need to, talk with her. So I had asked Ed already to include it in an executive session for the next meeting in September. I just wasn't sure if the board was fine with it just being the last thing in the agenda, or if we should do something different.
Yeah,
Are we going to just meet with one of them or both of them this time?
I think just one this time. I mean, I think we had gotten to a place with John that we were going to reevaluate at some point.
Yeah.
I think doing 2 in one time might be a lot, but it's up to everybody else.
Well, I didn't know if we wanted the special meeting just for 2 people, but if there's just one.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I think let's just do one and have it earlier in the agenda, though, not late.
Okay.
The only issue with that is we'll have the agenda, we'll open the meeting, we'll have some part of the agenda, we'll adjourn it, and they'll come back into open session, and we're not going to be able to tell the people half hour, an hour and a half. So
Right.
That's the only issue I see.
True. Well, I guess it just depends on what are the other items on the agenda already building up for the next meeting. And do we have a full agenda, or is it
I've been making a little note, usually when we make reference to something. So what I have here is Board of Health speaker, the TIF 623, which might just be a report. Vicky, we have to get the revenue expenses. We haven't had that. I think we skipped over the disability. I think supposed to be an old business item. We should discuss that tonight. I don't know if people had all the other things that I have on my list. The master plan report out won't be till October. East Street is not going to be later on in September. CARES Act funding, we'll let the committee update us on that. Minutes, municipal light district is something that people want to talk about. Green Communities Grant, we got an update. We just want to get another update on that for next time. Easthampton Media PEG equipment, we know is not going to happen until after the town meeting. Open space and recreation plan, there'll be a report out at some point. It won't be next time. And then Greenway, at some point, we discussed before or after the master plan presentation. And that's what I had on my standing list.
I mean, personally, even if it starts at 9 or 9:30, that's still pretty late
I know.
about stuff like that,
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, why don't we schedule it as the first thing and then schedule our regular meeting to begin at 7 o'clock, give ourselves an hour.
And just say it's an hour and that's it. I think we can do
How
that.
else to do it?
Yeah, I think we should be able to do that.
Sounds like an idea, yeah.
You want to check with Vicky? I don't know what her, obligations are at that, whether she'd rather do something 6 o'clock versus 9 o'clock or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but why don't we put that on for next time, along with Board of Health speaker, Green Communities Grant, TIF, and revenue expenditures. Is there anything else anybody wants to include for next time?
Sounds like a light agenda.
Yeah. Okay. We'll wait to hear from Heather around works best for her. Let's just keep going, then we'll go back and.
Do you want to talk about short-term, long-term? That's a quick response that we missed.
No, because otherwise we're going to the warrants, but let's just go back. You were going to look into why the people that asked questions didn't actually end up submitting a proposal.
Yeah, because they said they couldn't give us specific amounts without having specific information, name, address, occupation, and one of them said social security number.
Oh, wow.
They say they rate it based on that specific information. I says, well, name, address, occupation, that probably considered public information. We could run a list, but there's no way we're going to give them social security number. So, if we reran it, the RFP with name, address, and occupation, we could do that as I'm talking out loud, so tell me if it doesn't sound right. We could do that as a request from people who want a bid, not just post it as part of the bid, you know what I mean? So if I'm a vendor, I would need to request that information because I want a bid. So it won't be out there full-blown public.
Okay.
I don't think we can get social security numbers without their permission, nor would we want to.
No.
I mean, the risk is something.
I mean, even when you get into the name and address, when you're dealing with public safety like police and fire, you've got an issue.
Yeah.
But that's on a public street list that we have out there now.
No, I think the police and so forth are not on our public street list.
That's correct. They're removed.
Okay.
I think the risk determination is really what job title and responsibilities and what are the range of ages of a particular of our workers. I mean, that's what really determines risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
You need individual, because that I can understand being an employee and not wanting to give that out. Then they're going to kind of find ways to find out who has a pre-existing condition, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it should be based on their age and the title of the position. Obviously, highway workers, police officers, I mean, they're in a riskier place, but
I don't see what the address has to do with anything.
Yeah, other than, as Greenie said, pre-existing conditions or other insurance claims.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't want that given out to me. So, John, how many different places were there that asked questions, and/or were there just a couple of them, or?
Two as I remember.
Yeah. What do people want to do? We decided this was, do we want to relook at the proposal and see if there's more we can do to, give them more information or narrow it down? I mean, this is something we decided a long time ago was something that would hopefully allow us to budget more neutrally.
Yeah.
The other side we talked about is just putting a line item in the budget for X amount and drawing from that. That puts all the, on us.
Yeah, from where
Correct.
though? Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a, designation per department.
Yeah, it's self-insuring, basically.
Right.
But that would help the department's budget much better.
Yeah.
We give them some help when they need it.
Yeah. Yeah, at this particular point, to cut any of these departments any more, to put it into a line item for disability is going to be a rough thing to do.
I don't know we could cut the departments because they would need that salary for a replacement when the people were out. We'd have to fund a whole new line item.
Right.
Or use the line item to pay whoever the replacement workers were.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if we were going to, use the money, set up a line items to pay out the worker who was out on disability, their 75%. I'm saying do the reverse, pay the replacement out of that, and maybe if need be, if we didn't pay as much or they didn't work as many hours, but there would be some mechanism to manage the pool of funds.
I would imagine that's just an accounting entry.
Was the company that came to speak to us, John, was that one of the ones that you checked in with?
Yep, and he was the one that was real specific on all that information.
Wow.
Yeah, they want to know exactly what the risk is before they even bid on it. That seems a little unrealistic, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, after the first year, you'd have sort of a history. Then, you might see your fees go up and down because it's all based on what you used a year or two before.
Well, we provided them with that information.
Yeah, no, we did.
Okay, anybody have a suggestion on what we do about that going forward?
One of the things, and it was kind of a procedural issue, I guess I'll say, when we put the bid out on the website, it got buried deep. It was so far down that nobody could see it. That's just the way our webpage is. You had to go through multiple layers to figure out that there was even bids there. Same thing with the land and everything. So people looking, for stuff like that, they would have never found it. So if we're going to put it out again, I think we should correct that and be more on the advertising side and putting it right on the front page.
When you do bids like that, are you able to cast a net and be, send it out to, organizations, that would see, different insurance companies that would see that? Or is it, I imagine there are pretty strict rules about putting things out.
No, what I used to do for the state is that if you knew companies, you would put out an email to somebody at the company saying there is an RFB that this company, it was UMass at the time, UMass is doing. It's located at this website, and give them the link. You're not giving them any advantage. You're just pointing them towards a link.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we do that or no?
What?
Did we do anything like that? Did we actually go after?
No, it was just posted and advertised, like a normal bid. But if we put it back out, I would think we could be more pointed, and I'll be glad to look up some companies.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to relook at the bid, or do you think that it was a solid, exactly what we were looking to put out? And I mean, I thought it was great. I thought it was very well written. I thought it was very informative. Is it worth relooking at it, or is it worth just putting it out to rebid and cast a wider net, at least in terms of getting the word out?
Yeah, and I'm just writing down here. I'll take a quick look at it, and I can take a quick look. Like I said, I think we looked at it plenty of times. It should be ready to go. We'll change some dates. We'll post it on the front page. We'll advertise it locally like we have to, and I'll try to cast a net. I'll go into some associations and local, and they don't have to be local. I mean, even the big companies can do that. I don't know if they would, but yeah.
Do we want to have do we want to have a motion to redo this, or do we need to?
I only heard part of it.
What's that?
I only heard part of what you said.
I said, do we need a motion to put this out to rebid?
Do we?
No. Ed, do we need one?
I don't know.
No.
No? Okay, we'll just put it back out to bid and hope that we get more information or more people interested. Okay, ready to move on to the warrants? Thank you, John, by the way.
You're welcome.
Francine, you want to go over the warrants?
Okay, it's P 21-6 for $240,395.01. PD 21-6 for $39,267.26. P 21-8 for $237,872.44. And PD 21-8 for $38,059.24. That's all, none of these are vendor warrants, they're all payroll and payroll deduction warrants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any questions about the warrants? I have a question in general. We went through this, laborious process of doing the budget and then, having some amendments to the budget. At no point was there anything sent out to the employees that, thank you for all you're doing. This is a really difficult year. We're getting hit really tightly with state money. And, basically last year, 2 years ago, there was a Proposition 2.5 override. Last year, there was finally a 2% raise. Is there just an assumption on the part of all the employees that because of the difficult situation we're in, then there's no increases were built into the budget?
That's an excellent point. It really is. It is a rough year. People work hard. They're valued. They should know that. Other than watching a meeting, I think. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Yeah, how about at department head meetings? That should funnel down from us to Ed to the departments and department heads to the staff.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of, I've heard a little bit here and there about there used to be pretty regular department head meetings and there haven't been one in a long time. Is that something that you're able to reestablish? You used to do them right after the select board meeting and then disseminate information to the department heads. Obviously it'll have to be by Zoom, but we do have a couple of accounts. Is that something you're able to reestablish?
Probably wouldn't be able to do it by Zoom, believe it or not, because most of the people here, including myself, with the desktop computers, don't have the microphones on them. So would have to do it in person and might just have to, because of the gathering sizes, might just have to do it split it into two different groups.
Well, that kind of defeats the purpose of everybody being in this together. When I can't join a Zoom meeting, I join by phone. I think whatever you can do to have people just come together, I think that's what I'm hearing would really help.
Yeah, they could do it by phone.
Yeah, especially now when people aren't able to be in person. We had a great meeting down at Conan Park and everybody was spread out and it was a beautiful day. So I just think it would be helpful, and I think it would be nice to pass along the message and not just, have people presume that, tough year, no raises. I just would like people to feel that they're appreciated in spite of the budget woes we're in, that we appreciate, them, working through this time.
And that's a piece I didn't think of, is could have the meeting outside rather than inside. Good point.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for the warrants. And then we had the amended town election warrant that's already been signed. We have minutes from August 18th. That was the short meeting last week. Everybody get a chance to look at that?
Yeah.
Someone
By
like to
the
make
way, Rini, Francine was the chair of the shortest select board meeting in our history.
I know, I saw it. You did a great job, Francine.
Yeah, one item. They should all be scheduled that way.
I know. And of all the ones, also a one-item agenda.
That's it.
Too bad, Matt and I missed that one. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the August 18th minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Let John second.
We'll give it to us. We'll give it to Francine. It doesn't matter.
Okay. All those in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Roland,
Martin, aye.
And Groden, aye. We have some pending items that we talked about, the Green Communities Grant. I don't know if there's any updates on the charter building or the Clearwater Woodland boundary, I think. And then also the dog complaints. I hope to think that no news is good news, but anything updates on those, Ed?
No.
Okay, we already talked about the meeting on the 8th and on this 22nd of September. We have the annual town election on the 1st, which is also the date of the state primary election. If nobody has anything else, we'll have open time for the public. Would anybody like to speak?
I think he's trying to unmute you, Tammy.
Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway. The one thing that I had heard from the annual town meeting, which might help us in the special town meeting, people wish they had their own chairs. Several people were not comfortable at all sitting out there in those little plastic chairs. So that's something to think about. The other thing is the town report was normally due early. We haven't seen it. I thought it was going to be there, but it wasn't. So how do we go about getting that? Because nobody can go into the town hall.
Right.
Yeah, they haven't been distributed at the annual town meeting for a number of years because we only get about 70 of them.
Okay. So do we have to let you know if we want one?
Yeah, or if, somebody's coming in to do early voting, they could ask for one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And otherwise, it's available online, correct?
What's that?
I said, and otherwise, it's available online, correct?
Yeah, correct.
We should get that out.
Well, and direct people where to find it too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks for all your help with the town meeting. Any other correspondence? I would just like to ask the board, because this did come up last time. I think, Francine, you made reference to something that was seen on social media and asking about sort of correcting the record. And it just made me, I think sometimes you can go down a rabbit hole on like Facebook. And I think that I've always preferred to send like links of meetings or, if there's complaints about something to do with the highway department. I know, Timmy, you're also really good about referring people to the right department heads instead of engaging on this back and forth, because sometimes trying to set the record straight ends up, you go down a spiral. So I just didn't know if people had any comments about that, what your, thoughts are about, we want to get feedback from the public. Obviously, Facebook is one place where people share what they know or don't know, and just wondering if there's anybody that would like to suggest we do anything differently.
Is Tamara Lunas, College Highway, is there a way that when you guys were really working on the articles, was there a way that we could have pulled some of that aside, like an extra video taping of it that I then could have directed people, hey, watch this. You'll hear them explain it. You'll understand what was talked about. But I don't know if Easthampton Media can do that, or if.
Well, that's
would
kind of
that make sense?
that's kind of the point of Roberts, right? Isn't that part of what he does? Is he takes the articles and he gives people an opportunity to preview them and read them?
But if you don't have charter to be on that, you don't see it.
Is his section uploaded?
I thought it was on channel 191 only.
But was it recorded? And if it was
also gets
recorded?
recorded and posted to the town website, Tammy.
But they're not going to talk about the articles that were pushed off. And that's what's on the ballot. That is what is on the ballot that everybody is going berserk over, and the wording of it.
Yeah, I think people are confused. People are thinking it's an override.
Yes, the Proposition 2.5 override when it's a debt exclusion on a vehicle. And they also don't realize the other dump truck hasn't even come in yet, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Unlike, like when we have the little information part on our warrant where we kind of explain the question, in writing right before the motion there, it would be nice if maybe we had something like that on the website too, to say, this is the reason for this debt exclusion. If, we just missed out on so many opportunities this year, from the town caucus to everything else, to explain things to people so easily, and maybe we have to figure out another way to make that more visible on the town website somewhere.
It would be greatly appreciated. I know people were very concerned. They were thinking you guys were trying to sneak something through. And I knew it was wrong, that it wasn't happening, but I could not get it across.
I keep thinking we could do something on 191, like one of us, and I'm not talking about myself, but could take the time to explain these things and then have them broadcasted, or people can, don't they post things to the website, and don't they post some things to YouTube so that people could go and look at this stuff and use it as an educational mechanism, and not just to broadcast our meetings on those particular things, because you can't meet and to have people go through an entire meeting when they're only really interested in these few items, that might be a way around it.
But that's the other thing, is our webpage our town website is full of information. Some of it is outdated, but if you go to the agendas and look at the calendar, the agenda is out there under mytowngovernment.org, and the agenda is listed there with all the Zoom information, passwords, all that stuff that people are going frantic over. I didn't hear back from this message. I didn't get back this. And they're relying on other people when they could just go in and look at it too.
Yeah.
Or they could come on here during public time like you do.
Yeah. But those were just a couple of things. I don't know if that's something I would much rather put a link out there that they could go watch and have you guys explain what was done. I think that would be more transparent.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we're trying to avoid is to get into one of us responding when we are a body and we should be speaking with one voice. So for us to get out there and get involved, it's not that I don't always see them. Certainly they're not intentionally ignored. It's that we have to function, as one unit, as opposed to a bunch of 5 individuals.
New topic. Since you brought that up, Francine, if there's a Facebook message out there and multiple people on a board respond, is that breaking the open meeting law? It's not you guys. I'm seeing stuff happening not with school committee.
I think it depends on I mean, it's really about deliberation versus scheduling, things like that. I mean, if there's deliberating, then I think that's not a good thing. If there's a quorum of people and they're part of a committee and they're deliberating about a topic that is within their purview, I think that would be
Okay,
suspicious.
all right.
I think that's a discussion
Then
for
the
the
question
ethics
that
commission.
was the school committee is, do they have a social media policy?
I don't know. They've been very great about, really good about putting out when they're going to be meeting so that people can get on there, but they'll get conversations going and you'll see, okay, all 4 members are talking here, or 3 members of the 5 are talking, and it's like, I wasn't sure if that's something we need to be aware of.
I think it's a higher risk, because of now when people can't meet in person. So I think that people have to be careful to not deliberate.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. If you have any suggestions too, I mean, I want to be able to respond to the public, and I want to be able to, clarify things, because I think the whole issue about the dump truck and I think it was confusing. I think a lot of people did think it was an override. So if there are ways to clarify that, when the articles come up, especially for the next town meeting, it would be helpful if we could do that, maybe apart from this meeting.
Is there any way to put anything out
Pardon?
for the election that people could pick up that explained the article a little bit in layman's terms? Like a little, well, those people are voting by mail anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Well,
that's not.
and the articles have already been voted on at this point.
Yeah, I know, but the explanation.
Yeah, I think next time around, I think that it would be helpful, because I can see how people would think it was an override.
Yeah.
And then such strong feelings about overrides that you don't want to lead anybody astray.
Yeah, the wording was exempt of the Proposition 2.5 is what it said.
Yeah. And then it got into some information about the tax rate, and there were a lot of misinformation about our taxes and the amount. So anyway, the more we can clarify it without going down that rabbit hole, I think would be good. Okay, so that's it, I guess. There's no executive session, and if nobody has anything else, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, come on. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
That John and Chris, I think, is what I heard.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Good night.
Fowles eye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
And Groden, aye, in order. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Take care.
Good night, Ed.